What's up, everybody, and welcome to the first ever Life's a Garden election special. We are just one day away from the 2024 presidential election, which means, hey, no more spam calls, no more junk mail, but it means a lot for the future of this country, and I am here today with one of my best friends and one of my more politically inclined friends, who has been on the show many times, Eric Wolf. I want to start this off by noting that Eric and I have been friends for a very long time, and regardless of differing opinions in policy or political ideology and whatever that may come with it, we still agree on way more than we disagree on. I want everybody to understand out there that it is okay to disagree, but it is more important to be open-minded, to be accepting of people who you disagree with, and have civil conversations with them. And that is what we are here to do today. We're here to prove to you that this is a possibility, and to challenge you to do the same. In addition, I want to make it very clear that the opinions of myself and Eric are that of our own. They have nothing to reflect upon any of the groups we are associated with, or any of our establishments that we work in. These are our own opinions that we are here to talk about amongst each other and for your entertainment. So please, join us in the first ever Life's a Garden election special. All right, welcome to our End of the World podcast. We are just 24 hours away from, well, when this comes out.
Right.
We are 24 hours away from the 2024 presidential election. And I'm being joined by my most politically charged friend.
I thought you were going to say politically challenged.
Well, I think I might actually fall more in that line than you would. But Eric, who has been on the show many a times, we are doing the first ever election special here on the show, and I think it's important for me to preface this episode by saying that me and Eric have been friends for a very long time. We agree on way more than we disagree.
Right.
However this might go, because a lot of our episodes end up being political anyway. That's why I was like, this is the guy that has to be on the show.
Mm-hmm.
We may disagree in this. I don't imagine things are going to get too heated because we're pretty good level-headed.
Yeah.
But the only reason I bring this up is because I think it's more important to mention to everybody listening that you can disagree with people. We can have civil debates and conversations and still be friends in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like my main thing here. It's like, while there's issues and there's certain things that we can disagree on, and you know, it might seem like we're getting combative at times when it comes to this kind of stuff. In the end, we can still shake hands, be friends, go out, we're still friends in the end.
Yeah.
And I think more people can be that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is going to be a nice, glowing endorsement of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we've shown that before on the show, you know. Obviously, you wouldn't be back several times if we were at each other's throat.
Yeah. If we couldn't talk about this stuff.
But
I think that you've really come a long way on my biggest political thing, which is just that I think that Irish people shouldn't exist.
Oh, God. Well, this is the first I've found of this, so
It's
get
totally...
out. No. But yeah, so that I just wanted to start with that. And I also want to say, we're doing this on a Sunday, where my football team has already lost. So I'm
already feeling combative.
I'm already in not a great mood. So I'm going to just push that out. I'm not going to take my anger out in this. No, I'm just kidding. It was a thrashing.
It was pretty rough.
Yeah, well, I've already let it go. So we are here and we are ready to roll. So let's get into the first ever election special of the Life's a Garden podcast.
All right.
Something new that I've been doing with guests
Mm-hmm.
to start the show off is 10 random questions.
Okay.
Now, this is a different kind of episode. So these questions are strictly politically based.
Cool.
We're kind of just going to do a little bit of rapid fire. We're not going to like dive too much into it. We might touch on some of these later.
Mm-hmm.
But the way I've laid these out, because I'm going to answer these as well.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, I just ask the questions and then you answer, but we're doing a little different this week.
Yep.
I'll ask the question. We'll both answer, and this is kind of going to be more of a, because usually what I do with this is kind of just like a warm up, just to kind of get to know the guests a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be more for the audience to kind of gauge starting off where we're at politically, so they can kind of come into this knowing
Like where we stand.
and what thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, we can always come back to these and break them down a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just kind of quick hit these and then go from there.
Sweet.
Normally I do 10. I only got 9. So
Terrible.
I know, I'm a failure. Starting off,
Okay.
which political party do you identify with?
I identify as a progressive.
And I generally identify as an independent.
Mm-hmm. Like, would you say moderate? I mean, I would say independent too, because I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, but I am definitely very left wing.
I would say I'm mid to right at this point,
Mm-hmm.
but more independent. I just like to say independent because I don't like to just say I'm one side or the other.
Right. I mean, for sure. I'm progressive, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I am a carbon copy of Bernie Sanders or whatever.
I wouldn't, and I wouldn't use the terms conservative.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would just say independent.
Yeah.
Like, that's just where I feel I fall. Okay.
Mhm.
Next question. Who, in your opinion, is the greatest president of all time?
Of all time? Well,
Yeah. And just so everybody's clear, I wrote these questions down days ago and still don't actually know my own answers to this.
mm-hmm.
So if at any point you change your mind, if you're like, oh shit, I forgot about him,
Mm-hmm.
that's who I think. You can bring that up.
Yeah.
Because I know I didn't give you these
Yeah, it's all
show.
good. I mean, I'm going to say Roosevelt for the New Deal,
Yeah.
driving us through some of the hardest part of our country's history and doing it very well.
I also would say Roosevelt is up there, but just for the sake of being different in this,
Mhm.
I'm going to say Lincoln.
Yeah.
For-
That's the other,
Yes.
really, I'm not going to say easy, as an insult, but it's just another one that's just
Up there,
You're
yeah.
going to pick somebody like that.
And Roosevelt, Franklin D. Roosevelt,
Mm-hmm.
is also in my top 3
Yeah.
for sure. Okay.
I guess I should have said FDR.
Yeah. This is different than greatest. Who is your favorite president of all time?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think that it would be easy once again to pick somebody like FDR or Lincoln here. But I think for me, I would rather pick somebody that I was alive and around for and experienced. So it's not going to be much of a surprise to you, but I'm going to say Obama to this one.
I'm going to say George Washington.
That's
Because
a good pick.
I just thought, we could dive into that later, but
Mm-hmm.
I think George Washington for me.
Yeah.
Who do you think is the worst president of all time?
Okay, so I thought that you were going to ask that. And one of the funniest things is that you could probably list so many presidents that were just ineffective and didn't really do anything or whatever, but we're not really going to remember any of those people. So you kind of want to pick somebody who's a little bit more high profile. This probably isn't going to be very surprising. Actually, it might be. But I'm going to say Ronald Reagan.
Really?
Yep.
Huh. I wouldn't agree with that. But, that's fair. That's your opinion. I am going to say, this is kind of close because, like you said, you bring a good point.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of ineffective presidents. I'm going to say Andrew Johnson, who followed Lincoln and basically set us back further from what we had accomplished from the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
Like, basically, Lincoln died, and then Andrew Johnson effectively, like, allowed the South to continue with slavery longer than they were supposed to.
Yeah.
But I will also add Richard Nixon.
Yeah.
As a one in there as well. Okay, this is going to be really tough, actually. Who is your favorite non-presidential American figure?
Okay.
I've thought about this, and it's very difficult. I think I'm going to go... I'll just start off because I've thought about this a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
This is tough.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Benjamin Franklin.
Okay.
I think that's a fair... He was a founding father, inventor. I mean, I know there's a lot of not great shit with him, too, that's come out later on, but I'm going to say Benjamin Franklin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one.
I could also say Martin Luther King.
Yeah. That was kind of like the one that I was centering on, so I'm probably going to say that.
Okay. What do you think currently is the biggest political issue facing America today?
Like, what's the most significant?
What do you think is currently, as of today, the biggest political issue? Yeah, that we need to address.
I mean, this is going to be really, really broad and probably exactly what you would expect me to say, but I'm going to say capitalism. And just like the unbridled, where we're at with capitalism right now.
Okay. Well, I was going to say economy.
Right.
And that's a broad statement because I'm talking inflation, housing prices, grocery prices, things like that.
So we're essentially saying the same thing.
And wages as well. Like that's an all-encompassing type of...
Yeah.
It's a huge...
Yeah. I mean, I'm saying the economy too.
Yes.
It's just like, I guess I'm saying more like the structure of it versus just, it itself.
What do you think is the biggest social issue facing America today?
Reproductive rights.
Okay. I think it's mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I both fall under healthcare, so...
Right.
I think...
Healthcare as a total, probably.
I'm going to go a two-parter here. I'm going to say mental health and also just overall division. Like, what seems to be... And that's a tough one because I don't think there's as much as people... As it's pushed to be, but that's not a good thing either. Like, if that's like the overall narrative is that we're a divided country.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. The reason why I'm saying reproductive rights more than anything is because I feel like that issue is at the forefront of where the country stands in regards to liberty. Like, you can feel like the mental health crisis and all of that stuff more daily, but I feel like that reproductive rights thing has a bigger long-term effect, or like it represents more than itself.
Fair.
Which is why I'm saying that.
Okay. An opposing view, or let's say, what is something that generally, because I know we both said we're kind of more moderate. Let's say you leaning more on the left. What is something on the opposing side that you can find agreement with?
I think that the actual creed of conservatism is the desire to be free to make your own decisions without having a regulatory force telling you what you can and can't do. And I can understand the appeal of that. And I mean, I agree with that in most cases, but a lot of times, me on the left, we kind of talk about the way that society needs to kind of come together and do things for the greater good of the society as opposed to the greater good of the individual. But I can understand, especially in certain livelihoods, things like farming and everything like that, how that is very appealing. And I can agree.
And I mean, there's a lot actually. I mean, I could name a few things, but more on the since it's stick to the subject. I'm definitely more pro-choice.
Mm-hmm.
So that being a big political issue right now, I am pro-choice.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can get into all the semantics of that,
Right.
but
Later.
generally saying, yes, I am pro-choice.
Mm-hmm.
And then final question.
That was 9 already?
This is the 9th one, yeah.
Huh, wow.
Who are you voting for?
Who am I voting for? I mean, I think that that's pretty clear. I'm not going to like say it because of like what I do for a job and everything. But I think that if you listen to what I'm saying, I think that it's pretty obvious
Okay.
where I stand on that.
And I don't think my job cares if I mention it. I've said many of things on here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where things are going to get contentious because I am voting for Donald Trump.
Okay.
And that concludes our top 9 today.
Yeah.
And so before we start just going on, would you care for a Hulk Hogan beer?
I'll pass. Thank you.
I figured that was fitting to have it. It's the real American beer is what it's called, but they're not bad.
Yeah.
It's just a basic light beer.
I figured it was just going to be Pabst in a different can.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
It's not a light beer either. Actually no, it is. It says light beer right there. I lied. It's probably just Pabst Light, to be honest. Okay. So let's just go ahead and get into this. Again, before we actually start diving into this,
mm-hmm.
I want to make it very clear that whatever disagreements we have, we're going to walk away with this. Probably not with our ideas changed.
Right.
This is just for the sake of conversation, the sake of debate. You know, I figured the way we think, the way we are, we're not like extreme right, extreme left. We have differing views on certain things. We have agreeing things on certain things. We will walk away, handshaking. We'll still be friends no matter what. And that's the whole point of this.
I don't have these kinds of conversations with people with the object of changing anyone's mind.
Sure. And that's kind of just where I just want... I'm not saying it for us. I'm saying it for the audience, really.
Mm-hmm.
I just want everybody to be clear. We're not here to try and...
Sway
or even... Like, I'm not here to... Like, we're not here to try and... degrade each other.
Right.
And have like a...
Or anyone else.
Yes, exactly. Or have like a blood-sweating argument here.
Mm-hmm.
Even though things may get... I don't know how things are going to go. I'm just trying to preface this early. You know what I mean? And so, anyway.
I think it's going to be okay.
I'm sure it is. We've had these conversations before.
I mean, like, one of the things, too, that, like... I think that you and me understand that I think would be just kind of good for more people to understand is that it's okay to talk about politics and it's okay to talk about things that you disagree with people who disagree.
Civilly.
To talk about issues with people who disagree with your stances on them, to have a civil discussion and to be able to do that. Like, honestly, like we moved, I feel like maybe the generation before ours kind of moved into this idea of like, you just don't talk about it. You don't talk about politics with people. And I understand why, because then we're not ruffling anybody's feathers and we're all getting along and everything. But the thing is that eventually it's going to come up, especially in a time like where this country's at right now. Like, you really can't not talk about it. It's so important and it's so like at the forefront of everybody's lives and in everybody's mind that eventually it's going to come up. So why wouldn't you learn how to talk about it? I talk about politics with like very conservative people all the time. People who I don't agree with a single thing that they say, and they don't agree with a single thing that I say. And you can tell the people who've actually done it and have learned that it's okay to disagree with somebody and that you don't have to change their mind and you don't have to freak out about the way that they think. And like, I've certainly debated with people who aren't like that too, and fly off the handle and stuff. And who, like, how I was when I was a teenager. Like, certainly I had to go through that phase too of like, wanting to like make sure that my position is known and that everybody understands it. And and that they understand that their position is wrong and all of this stuff and everything. And it's a very like juvenile way of looking at it, but like it all changed, and I grew up from that, from actually talking about it and stuff, and stuff like that. And I think that it's important for people to be able to do that.
And I'm actually going to backtrack just a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
This conversation is not meant to try and sway the other person, but I do think it's important, if you're going to have conversations,
To be open-minded.
exactly, to be willing to listen to other points of view and make open-minded decisions and that's kind of where I've always been. It's like, when I hear certain things, I'm like, I'm not choosing that because that's the side that I align with. I'm choosing that because that's where my heart aligns.
Right.
And this is what I just believe is right on certain issues.
Right.
So it's important to have conversations like that and to be open-minded and willing to be flexible in what you believe. Don't believe in whatever your political stances are, all like every check the box of every little thing.
To just toe the party line.
Yeah. Be willing to just feel the truth in your heart and what you believe.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another pretty important thing to just mention. So anyway, my first question for you, and again, because of the way you answered your last question, I'm going to try and tiptoe a little bit.
I mean, it's okay. I'm just a public worker, so I don't want to be so...
I understand. Why are you voting the way you are? What is your...
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? That's a wrong question, because I know.
Mm-hmm.
The better question is, are you voting the way you are because you think they are the better leader, or because it's not the
like,
other
are you
person?
asking me if I'm voting for somebody or against somebody?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I think that you well know that, like, I would probably vote for anything over the other person. I'm voting the way that, but like, that's really not what it's about. Like, there's a lot of very important issues right now. There's the reproductive rights issue. There's the way that the economy is moving. There's the Supreme Court. There's threats to democracy and all of that. And I feel like the person that I'm voting for is the person who is going to, like, actually, like, combat those things. And it said the things that I want, like, and it said the things that I want to hear. In the end, like, I'm sure that both sides make a better case of what they're going to do than what they're actually capable of doing, or even what they're necessarily interested in doing. But I'm always going to, like, break on the side of the person who is saying the stuff that sounds like what I want.
That's fair. You brought up the threat to democracy thing.
Mm-hmm.
We've had this discussion before.
Right.
Trying to think of how to, like... So, okay, let's start with this.
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, we started off with, I'm probably the more politically illiterate.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I'm not just gonna, like, sit here and, like, browbeat you or whatever.
No, I got you. I just want to...
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's clear.
Right.
Why is... God, it's so hard to not use names.
It's all right. You can do it.
Well, we haven't established any,
Yeah.
So, are we good to use names from here on
We're
out?
good to use names.
Okay. Why is Trump the threat to democracy?
Okay, so, I mean, there's quite a few different things that go into this. First and foremost, it's what happened after the last election. There was a very, like, concerted effort to try to overturn it with no evidence showing that there was anything wrong with it. I'm going to back that up by saying that there was, like, dozens of court cases in different states to talk about what was wrong with the election. And at no point was there anything that was actually shown. There was no evidence. All of these cases were thrown out because there was no evidence. Even, like, he was on Joe Rogan last week, and even Joe Rogan himself was like, are you going to, like, ever actually show us the evidence? And Joe Rogan is whoever he is, like, but he's definitely somebody who gives a fair shake to, like, those positions. And I think that you've kind of told me, like, that you feel like he's somebody who gives a fair shake to any position. So I don't think that he'll
at least not. He'll try and challenge you on what seems to be incorrect.
But I guess what I'm saying is that I feel like he was not being inauthentic in giving Donald Trump a chance to explain the evidence, of which he still didn't. There is no evidence. And even, like, you know, in the past couple of weeks, he's even said that he lost. He's admitted that he lost, to the point to where Nick Fuentes, who's, I think that's how it's pronounced, who's like the leader of like the neo-Nazi kind of white supremacist movement here in the country, was so upset about that he was like, well, I wish that you would have told us that at the beginning, and is now basically saying that he's not going to vote for him because he's a liar. So that's kind of the first thing, right?
Okay, now, and before we move on,
yes,
keep your. I just want to make sure we're
each getting our moment,
and like we'll stay on this track,
right?
What is different about that, the case in this position, than in 2000 when Al Gore lost to George Bush and there was contention in the state of Florida?
Right. Well, I think that it's
because the Democratic Party called for the similar situation here, where they thought they had won, and it was a similar situation.
It was a little different, and what's different about it is that there was, it's the way that the ballots were made in Florida. As I recall, and I might not be perfect on these details, but basically the way that it was that there was like bubbles in the middle, and then there were names on either side kind of corresponding to those bubbles, but they were, it was confusing, basically. And the reason why the Democrats felt like they had a case with the Al Gore thing is because after polling, they do exit polling, where basically like people who, like as people go out, then they ask like anonymously who they voted for, and people can answer or they cannot answer. But based on like what was coming out of exit polling, it looked very much like Al Gore was going to win. And then when you looked at the numbers, it didn't pan out that way. And a lot of it had to do with the way that the ballot was constructed. It was constructed confusingly, and the case was being made that it was constructed that way on purpose. I don't remember the exact details of all of it, but basically there was reason to believe that things did not go the way that they were supposed to go there. So that was the reason for the lawsuit. Now, here's the thing. You also need to understand that after all of that happened, after we, shot our shot in the courts or whatever, and it didn't end up working out, Al Gore conceded defeat, signed off. I mean, he was the one who certified the election because he was the vice president. He certified it. He was happy to do all of that stuff. What he didn't do is send an angry mob of barbarians to the Capitol to try to overthrow the process. He didn't, still to this day, say that the election was wrong with baseless accusations. I mean, we all still, on the left still hold that it seemed like it wasn't right. And I would probably say that I agree to that. However, in the end, we did do the peaceful transfer of power. And why? Because democracy was more important than winning. That's not what happened last cycle. So, in last cycle, we were coming through COVID. There was some it was different with the non-person, what was it? It was absentee.
It was a lot more absentee
early voting.
So there was some cause for potential.
I understand.
So it was a different situation in that as well. Now, I agree the transfer of power should have been different. Obviously, in any case, if it's a close election, like it was, and then you had states overturning the vote.
That didn't happen.
Did that not happen in Georgia?
No.
Where it showed that Trump was winning, and then it a bunch of extra votes came in later and they changed it?
Well, I mean, as they continued to count, the thing is that in different states count their votes differently. Some of them will count their early votes and their absentee votes before election day. Other ones won't.
But doesn't it
So with Georgia, they're not allowed to start counting their votes until election day, basically. So you need to actually ship those votes. Like they don't just sit in one specific place. So they bring them in so that they can be counted. So here's what you had in Georgia. What you had was the same day voting, right? Election day votes where people came to the polls and they actually did it. Those are traditionally going to be more conservative. Older people like to actually go to the polls and vote, which is great. I actually really like doing that too. I don't because it's not convenient, but I would like to. But like that's the thing. So when you have these states, they're all going to come up as very red first, because that's the way that it works. But then as you bring in the absentee voting, that's traditionally more blue. So as you continue to count these, then you have the potential of that big Republican lead diminishing and then flipping, which is what happened in Georgia.
But can you agree, at least in the fact that in a close race, it can seem suspicious in that?
I think that it can seem suspicious if you don't really understand how the system works.
But still, when it comes down to a very close and contentious race, there does seem to be some suspiciousness when it comes to some of that. And there's, we can lean on this more, but I do want to talk about a bunch of other stuff. Right. Also, well, anyway,
that was one thing in regards to why I feel like he's the threat to democracy.
Okay, that's the other point I wanted to make. So with that, all that, yes, there was contention over the vote. Trump argued the vote and argued the win and didn't necessarily accept the loss.
The courts,
but what has really come of that? Like, how is that a threat when nothing has really come of it?
So,
because nothing's
I
really
would
been...
argue that things have come of it.
Like what?
Basically, what's come of it is that you have a whole coalition of people in this country now that don't believe in our electoral system, and that's the point. Now, obviously, if his efforts would have worked and got him the presidency in 2020, then it would have just worked there. But we're kind of playing the long game here. Like now, this time, now you're going to have a lot of like they've worked for the past 4 years to get people who believe that there was something wrong with that election into like places of power in the electoral system. You have plenty of people who are running the elections in Georgia specifically that are people who believe that there was something wrong with the election beforehand. Once again, with no evidence. I would understand if there was evidence, if there was like real tangible reason to believe that there was something wrong with it. But like that, so I mean that's one thing that's happened is basically that we've made it so that a lot of people doubt the electoral system. We've kind of like certain things that Trump did, like he's weakened it. One of the things that he did is he moved funding away from the USPS, which is something that affected last election, but like, it had like long-standing things that have kind of gone through the past 4 years and have further weakened the U.S. postal system to make it so that it's harder for votes to actually get there. Even like without that, going back to the first thing that I said about causing doubts in the system. You've seen in Portland and I think in Pennsylvania, it was Arizona. I apologize. You've seen where people have set fires to mailboxes with ballots in them.
Yes.
You know who those people were, or you know which side they were on.
Seems like one in both.
Huh?
Seems like it would be one in both.
I'm saying the people who did that.
I mean, I don't think we have any evidence of who did it.
They have people in custody, as far as I recall. I don't remember. Either way, it was done in counties that are traditionally very blue, for the point of destroying ballots. I mean, there's really only one side that's been like arguing against.
That could also just be just straight anarchy, just random people just being anarchists and trying to be, because those ballot boxes aren't just full of left-wing votes, they're full of both sides.
Right, but you're only doing it in left-wing counties, so you know that you're going to be hitting more.
It's also only happened in 2 counties. I mean, that's not the whole vote.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 2 ballot, like it's 2 different locations.
I'm just giving this as an example of things that haven't happened until now.
I just think I'm sure that's happened before. That has to have happened before. Ballot destroying, but that could easily just be. I mean, you could set a fire to a mailbox, and that's a federal offense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that just seems like something that's kind of just. That could be any just antisocial anarchist trying to just be.
I think it's more.
Wild.
I think that it's more than just a coincidence.
I mean, if it was, I feel like if it was a concerted effort, but even though Oregon goes blue all the time, that's not going to change the vote in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like if it was a concerted effort, we'd see it all across the country very frequently.
It's definitely some of the more extreme stuff.
I just feel like that situation, that isolated situation, seems like it's more just a random case of coincidence.
I only offer it up as an example of like actual behaviors that have been seen. I mean, obviously, it's more about things that are going on procedurally, the things that I said about putting people in positions of power that are willing to kind of mess with the electoral system a little bit and those kinds of things.
So so in the event Trump were to become president, that's what you feel is the threat, is the positions of power thing?
I mean, I feel like that stuff is a threat to the actual democratic system.
Okay.
Of the votes being, of a free and fair a free and fair election. I feel like there's been threats to that. Now I think that that's going to evolve into actual threats about whether or not we are going to be a real democracy in 4 years if Donald Trump wins.
So I'm going to counter-argue.
Okay.
Because I think the Democratic Party has shown signs of anti-democratic practices as well.
Okay.
That being, they essentially just moved Biden out of the race and installed Kamala without a vote. Now, I understand that it was a legal thing that they did. I get that. The way that it procedurally happened, it was legal. But does it not feel somewhat concerning in a way that they're kind of just putting whoever they want as the candidate, and this is not the first time they've done this. They did that with Hillary Clinton because Bernie Sanders was the favorite in that election.
We've talked about that.
And they essentially squashed his run.
I mean, what they did is they had everybody leave they had everybody drop out of the race right before Super Tuesday and put all of their support behind Joe Biden. Obviously, he's going to take the...
Doesn't it... I mean, to me, from an outside perspective looking in, it feels very... It's concerning to me that they're just kind of bypassing the democratic process to install the people that they want in, that they believe is going to win. And I don't think they put her in because they think she's the best person. I think there was plenty of other candidates that would have better fit that position. But I think they put her in because they thought she had a better chance, being that she's a woman of color or, whatever. There's plenty of different things that we could say about it. The fact alone that they threatened him with the 25th Amendment to take him out. He didn't want to leave. They tried to run him, and then they lied to us about the fact that they didn't think his cognitive, obviously they agreed in the end. They agreed that he was not fit to be president. And for the last 4 years, we've been told he's perfect, he's fine, he's good, he's, whatever. And I can't imagine that in the last 6 months that he just declined like that. Because we've been saying it for 4 years that he's shown signs of not being quite as sharp as he once was. And I don't think that's hard to prove. I think it's very clear. He's an older guy. We could cite many cases where this has been seen and that. they lied to us and said that he was fine. And then they admitted that he wasn't. There's no way that it just happened overnight. And they were just like, yeah, he's not fit to be president. Mm-hmm. And I think that's concerning to be like, well, they straight up lied to us about this. And then they installed somebody that, without a single vote from anybody on the left side, like nobody voted for her to be the candidate. They just said, okay, and I agree that she's the one that makes the most sense because she's the vice president. It makes the most sense that she would be the one that comes in. Mm-hmm. But the fact that she was in the primaries before, in the last election, dropped out 8th, like she had no backing whatsoever. I'm honestly kind of shocked that she was even brought in as the vice presidential candidate in the first place. Mm-hmm. It just seems like, I don't know, there's concerns in that where it seems like there's a lot of conspiring happening.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, does it not at least seem somewhat suspicious?
I understand your perspective on it.
And in addition to that, well, I brain farted a little bit. Hang on, let me backtrack just a little bit where I was at. Unless you go ahead and counter argue. Yes.
Okay. So there's kind of a lot to unpack there. First and foremost, like you said, nothing that happened with changing the candidate was
illegal.
Well, not only was it not illegal, but it's also not something that's outside the boundaries of the political system and the democratic system that we have put in place. The primary is a poll. It's not an election. It's a poll. And basically the thing is that the party can put anybody that they want up there. It doesn't really matter what happens in the primary. The primary is just to gauge who the party, who the people of the party want. However, there's so much that's kind of put into it. Generally speaking, there's really no actual real primary for an incumbent president. Like, they might, if there's challengers, then they'll do one. But it's really just a formality, right? Now, here's the thing, too, that you need to understand, is that we all did vote for Kamala Harris in the primary. Because when you vote in the primary, you vote for the president and the vice president. So she got as many votes as Joe Biden did.
Well, like I said, I agree that she was the one. Like, I agree. I don't disagree with that.
Well, what I'm telling you, though, is that you said that she didn't get any votes in the primary. What I'm telling you is that, no, she actually did. She got all the votes in the primary. She got as many votes as Joe Biden did.
There wasn't any votes.
Because
it was an incumbent. There's no votes if it's an incumbent.
You still did. No, you
she
still
was
did
already,
vote.
They were already installed as the incumbent.
Well, they were the incumbent. However, if the primary... Because there were challengers in the Democratic primary. I remember voting in the primary, and there were several names on the Democratic ticket for president.
But typically, the incumbent is usually always the...
Well, that's the thing. They were obviously going to win.
Right.
And he did. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris won the primary, by a margin that's just not even worth talking about, right? Because he's the incumbent. So, yes, he was going to win the primary, but we also did have a primary, and we did vote in it. We vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris during the primary. Now, afterwards, there were doubts about his energy and about his mental sharpness, especially when he's speaking and all of that kind of stuff. And after we had the debate between him and Donald Trump, which admittedly was not good, it was clear that he was not going to be the winning candidate. Any party is going to do this. They're going to change their candidate if they feel like if they feel like their candidate is so bad that they're obviously not going to win. This shouldn't be a difficult election for Democrats to win, because Donald Trump is not popular. He is very popular with a certain subsection of the electorate, but generally speaking, women, most minorities, moderates, he's not particularly popular, especially after the things that happened after the previous election. So this should be an easy one. We look at it and we saw that Joe Biden might not be the guy. So we changed the person who was endorsed essentially by the party to be the candidate. Now, we still didn't just anoint her the candidate like you keep hearing. We still had the convention where people put forth their votes. Now, conventions, once again, usually a formality. However, if there had been like actual concerns from the constituents, when you do the convention is a whole bunch of delegates from each state that come together and then put their votes towards who they want to be the party's nominee. And at that point, before the convention, there is no nominee, which Joe Biden stepped down and endorsed Kamala Harris before the convention.
Did he step down or was he removed?
He stepped down.
I
think that he stepped down with some pretty staunch suggestions from other party leaders. I don't think that he just woke up one day and said, "Nah, I don't want to do this anymore."
Yeah, I think that he was removed.
But he said that himself in his speech.
That
he
doesn't
said,
mean anything.
He said, I love this position. I want nothing more than to, serve this country in whatever capacity I can. However, this country's the safety of the country and the country systems and all of that is more important than my own personal pride. Therefore, I am stepping down. Was there pressure? Yes, of course there was. But here's the thing. You just got done with this big monologue where you told me that he wasn't fit to be the president. And now you're complaining that he's no longer going to try to be the president.
No.
You can't have it both ways.
No, I agree that he should have... I said he should have been removed long ago. And we've had this conversation before. Where I asked you, do you think he's falling apart or is he still there? And you vehemently told me that he's fine.
I stand by it.
I don't think that that's the case. Like I said, the fact that for years... I mean, okay, let's just say the last 2 years. There has been visual, audible, like so much evidence stating, like
what?
To suggest just the fact that he's falling asleep in meetings, the fact that he's his lack of speech. Like there's so much. I remember when he was vice president. Mm-hmm. It was not the way that it is.
He was certainly sharper then.
Yes,
that's how age works.
But doesn't it seem like there was a very not a rapid decline.
Like a rapid decline. I wouldn't necessarily say that either.
Early in his presidency, I think that I've been saying it for a long time.
Dude, they had like all kinds of like memes and like other bullshit talking about how he was.
I saw them in like as they were happening, without cuts, without gaffes, it was as they were happening. I was seeing it with my own eyes. I think it's completely delusional to think that that was not the case. I mean, you see her talking and you don't think that she's losing her mind. I mean, she said some crazy shit too, but it's different. It's not like she's just riffing, rambling, whatever. It's not because she's like losing track of what she's saying.
I've never like said that I didn't think that he has had, that he is like mentally slower and has like some of that, that his age is clearly showing. Now, what I did say is that I don't think that he's like demented. I don't think that he doesn't have the capability to do his job, especially given the fact that his job is one that is done by an administration, not a singular person. He doesn't do... Well,
yes, I agree with that too.
And that's how it should be.
But here's my other point that I want to make. Mm-hmm. So, do you agree that he is unfit to be the president?
I think that he has definitely... I think that he is unfit to be the nominee because I don't think that he instills a lot of like faith and confidence in people. Do I think that...
I'm more speaking about like a...
Do I have a concern about him now? Like being the president right now and for the next like few months or whatever? No, I don't. I don't have any concern about that at all.
But you would moving forward?
I don't even think that I would say that. I think that if he was still on the ticket and he won, that we would be fine.
Okay, my whole point with all of this was that it feels very suspicious to me that they were planning on running him, chose to pull him after a terrible debate when we saw decline.
I don't know if I would even necessarily agree that they were planning on running him. Like, I mean, obviously they were, but I don't think that they were committed to him completely and entirely. I think that they were always ready to change to
I just feel like
Kamala or whoever was polling well, because they were still doing polls, seeing who else was like doing well with the party base and stuff like that. And the thing is that Kamala was doing the best out of anybody, and in some polls I think that she was even doing better than Joe Biden, which is why after they did the debate, it was all kind of laid to bear that he doesn't have the like mental acuity to like look sharp and to do these debates well, that he clearly wasn't the person. So then they switched to the next person that was doing well with their internal polling.
So, do you feel like, well, I guess you kind of just answered it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, do you feel like if she was in the lineup with 6 of the next best candidates in line, that she would have been the one to win?
That's a really like hard question to answer. Like we have
obviously that's a what if, and
we have a pretty good, like the left has a pretty good bench. I think that without seeing what it would have looked like with a big, one of those big debates where they have all of the people on the stage, like answering these rapid fire questions and seeing how they do, I don't know if I can really like say with any confidence whether she would or wouldn't be the best option. I think that she is a good option. And I think that some of it too is that you match the nominee or the candidate to who the like other to who the other party's candidate is,
yes. Right?
So I mean, here's the thing. Like on the right, we have a convicted felon who kind of like tries to wield the law in ways that are like personally like benefiting, like, or the ways that personally benefit him, and kind of try to like play the loophole game a little bit. These are things that he does. He's a businessman. Like it's really not out of character. And I'm not even trying to like say like, I'm not trying to like, say bad things or whatever. It's what he does. And he is a convicted felon. So Kamala Harris is a prosecutor. And so you have this, this dialogue, this storyline of, like he's sitting here and he's trying to, I'm not saying that this is like how it is or whatever. I'm just saying this is the dialogue from our side. He's the anti-law. He's the one who breaks the laws, and she is the law. So she's gonna like. Well, she's gonna beat him.
There's
kind
a lot
of thing
with that too that I'm not stoked about either.
Mm-hmm.
With her prosecution record, I'm not. There's things with that we could also unpack.
Yeah, I mean,
but
history's cool.
I'm just saying, like
I know. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that it's not really the most applicable thing.
I think
she's not running to be a cop.
No, but I think it shows to character.
Mm-hmm.
As we've done that with both sides. Like I think it's valid to point that out as a character flaw.
Mm-hmm. I don't spend a lot of time like talking about like things that like Donald Trump has done before he became a politician or whatever, or like before he became a presidential nominee or anything like that.
But I think it's something that people do bring up, so
mm-hmm.
it's worth noting.
Right, of course. And I'm not disagreeing with you.
Right.
Like, I will agree with you that I think that there are things about that part of her history that I don't agree with.
Yes.
And I'm not going to like sit here and be like, dude, Kamala Harris is like
everything
that I hoped for in a presidential candidate.
Well, and as I would also say the same about him. Like, I think there's plenty of things in his past that I don't agree with.
Mm-hmm.
And just to add to this, as far as like, okay, let me just ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a simple way to ask.
Right.
Do you think she's qualified to be president of the United States?
Absolutely.
In what way?
She's served as a politician for a long time. She's been the vice president. Like, she already like has seen firsthand how it is. And I guess, like, what are you asking for in terms of who's qualified? Like, what are your qualifications? I mean, my qualifications are basically that she can work with people because it's an administration. It's not just about her. Like, if she can work with people, if she has like, the eye of the tiger, she wants to actually like go in and change things. And she showed like in previous positions that she does have like a forward thinking, like actual wants to like put effort into changing things. Like she was voted into those things, or she was voted into her positions.
She was not.
Yes,
She was appointed those positions.
No, dude.
She was appointed vice president. She wasn't voted as vice president. She was appointed. Joe Biden won the president.
She was voted.
Joe Biden won the presidency.
Dude, you vote for the ticket.
You vote
for both.
Let's be honest. You vote. You don't vote for the vice president. You vote for the president.
You won't vote for the ticket if you don't like the vice president. That was one of the biggest. That was one of the biggest. Like, that was probably the number one thing that harmed John McCain's presidency.
This is true. But I really don't think that Obama had any threat of losing in that debate or in that race.
Yeah, but she did significant damage towards there.
That's
because
true.
Honestly, if you look back at John McCain's record and who he is as a person and everything, he was actually a very, very strong candidate for pulling in moderates as somebody who's a war hero and, went through being like a POW and all of that kind of stuff. Like, he was actually a really, really good nominee. But like when you think back to that cycle, we spent very little time talking about anything that John McCain believed. We spent more time talking about how she could see Russia from her house and how she reads all the newspapers and all of this like dumb stuff that she said that showed that like if something happened to John McCain, that she would be running the country, and that terrified a lot of people.
Does it mean anything that her approval rating as vice president was one of the lowest?
I mean, that's kind of a typical thing that happens with vice presidents. And one of the things with her is that she was very, very non-visible.
And there's a reason for that.
I mean, in the end, she's visible now, and it hasn't really caused a lot of harm for her.
I don't think it's helping her. I think here's one thing that doesn't concern me about her, but it makes me question how people view her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a lot of people know who she is.
They do now.
I don't. And I watch a lot of this shit.
I feel like you don't if you're not seeing, if you
That's
don't
it, though.
know anything about
her. But where
her.
can I see her? What has she done? She doesn't do interviews.
She absolutely does.
What has she done, like 4 interviews?
She's done Fox News. She's done CNN a couple of times. She's done...
These are edited, like... And they're with... She hasn't done a Fox News interview, has she?
Yes.
I haven't...
She just did it like 2 weeks ago, dude.
Well,
the dude talked over her the entire time.
Well, and that's not good either.
Yeah,
that doesn't
actually really suck.
That's what I mean. Like that doesn't help you get to know her.
Well, that wasn't her fault.
I
tried to talk over him, and it just kind of ended up being like this stupid thing. But yes, I mean, she's done all of the networks. She did ABC. She did 60 Minutes. You know who didn't do 60 Minutes? Donald Trump. He actually over a couple weeks ago, he declined a second debate. He canceled like 5 different interviews. He I mean, obviously we had the whole thing where he canceled a whole bunch of rallies too for a while. I mean, he's done some now, including the one where he like just danced around for 40 minutes. Like, like all of this stuff that you're hearing about like what Kamala's doing and stuff, like, yeah, there was a point where she wasn't doing a lot of interviews. That was like a month ago that we were having that discussion.
But that's
you know
right
why? It was because she was rallying. She wasn't spending time with like the news and all of that stuff.
But that's where you reach the masses.
You can do that. I mean, in the end, like
the rallies don't do anything.
No, the rallies do more because you actually go to the places that matter. With our electoral system, there's honestly the only state that matters is Pennsylvania. With the other swing states mattering a little bit, but honestly, it's really about Pennsylvania. So she's been doing rallies. She's been going to the states that matter rather than spending time with, like you said, these edited interviews where we have,
but it's all
because like. Especially like TV interviews, like all that they're doing is they're trying for gotcha questions and they're trying for clicks and they're trying for interesting stuff. And they're not really giving, and it's on both sides. And I'm just saying that doing the interviews is a waste of time.
Sure. And to that point, there shouldn't be any discussion as to why Donald Trump would deny those. That's the reason. They're going to get you gotcha questions. They're going to edit it down.
Well, sure. I'm not.
So for him to decline those is not a bad thing.
Well, no, I'm just saying it's the same thing. You're talking about how that's an indication that Kamala Harris is not fit to be president.
No. I'm not saying she's not that's not my indication for not being fit. I'm saying visibly,
Mm-hmm.
it feels like it's a bad choice to not know who you're voting for. I mean, that's another concern I have in this whole thing in general. I feel like coming into, let's just go all the way back.
Mm-hmm.
Her being vice president, her time as vice president, again, not visible. We don't really know a whole lot about her. We don't really. She wasn't. What was her position before when she was running for president? What was her? She was California's what?
I think that she might have been like the oh God, I can't remember.
So she wasn't.
I can't remember the name of the position.
But she wasn't a senator or anything.
I don't recall. I don't recall her
but see,
whole career.
That helps in itself. We just don't know a lot about her.
I mean, I'm not particularly concerned about all that stuff.
I just think and listen, here's where my concern is. The fact that we don't know so much about her, and then in just a short 6 months, people are rallying around her. Not like this could be anybody. I mean, she's not nobody, right? But we don't know a lot about her.
I mean, she's been given ample opportunity to talk about her platform. She's done rally after rally, which you can see. You have to actually look for them, you know. They're not just they don't show rallies on TV. You can find them on the internet all the time. I've seen a few of them. They're good. Like, you know, she talks about her position that way. She's had the debate. She's had all of this stuff. And honestly, man, like, it's not different than essentially like what happened with, like Barack Obama, because the election cycle before he ran, like, yes, he was a senator, but you didn't know who he was. The only reason why you knew who he was is because he gave a great speech at the DNC the cycle before he ran. And then all of a sudden he was just there. Now you could go back and you could research his voting record. You can do the same thing with Kamala Harris and all of the positions that she's had. You know, and even more so because you can also see her cases as a lawyer and all of that kind of stuff. So you can go beyond her political career into like into, you know, the other parts of her career. No, I'm the one who lost my train.
It's easy to do.
You know, but then Obama ran. People didn't really know a whole lot about him other than the speech that he gave. And then he like got in front of cameras. He did rallies. He did interviews. He did all of these things, and he spoke about what he believed and what he wanted to do as president. And then we as voters looked at it and we said, yeah, that's what we want. And so we voted for him. That's exactly what Kamala Harris is doing too.
Now, to that, I agree. I believe, like, because Obama was in a very similar situation. Not very well known, which concerns me. Because not having a lot of political time or, you know, a career in the political realm and being thrust into the presidency lends itself.
Well, Kamala Harris has had a political career.
4 years as vice president?
I think that she was a member of Congress. I'm just saying, like, totally on that, but
it to me lends itself to a more administrative control, where it feels very puppet-like, where you're not the one doing anything. It's all these other people behind the screens that I don't, you know what I mean? And
sure.
And that's just all, you know, assumption. That's what it feels like. The difference between Barack Obama and Kamala Harris, to me... Kamala Harris. The difference for me is he was a statesman. He speaks well. He's the guy you want to be the face. Now, I'm not saying Trump is that either. I mean, obviously he does enough to galvanize a group of people.
You're saying that the guy who like is making jokes about Hannibal Lecter and talking about whether or not he wants to be eaten by a shark or electrocuted by a battery in a sea.
Well, now the difference between Trump and Obama as a speaker or as a face are very different.
Right.
But one thing you can't deny about Donald Trump is he is entertaining in some way, shape, or form, whether it's good or bad.
I don't know if I would say that I think that he's entertaining.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I've listened to plenty of interviews with Trump. He is a very difficult listen. It's not have you ever
seen, they do this all the time, but they'll take like things that he said and they'll put it in text and then make other people read it, and it's hilarious.
Well, the way it is very difficult. Don't get me wrong. I get exhausted very easily trying to listen to him.
I mean, if
just
you want
tell
to have
a simple thing.
If you want to have a conversation about someone who still is a presidential candidate who has mental acuity problems, we could go through some of the shit that he's said.
And yeah, I mean,
here's the thing: you just spent this whole time talking to me about how mental acuity is important for a presidential candidate. His mental acuity is.
I don't think
it's not. It's not better.
I don't think it's not as bad as him.
Okay,
he's doing the same thing he did 8 years ago.
No, dude, it's worse.
I don't think it is.
The way that he just, like, completely leaves a subject.
But that's him. Now he's becoming a politician. He knows how to frickin' weave shit in and out.
No, he's not weaving things in. He's just going off on, like, random tangents and not answering questions.
I feel like he's always done that.
He's not weaving things. He's just, it's all falling apart. Now, back in the last cycle, and definitely the cycle before that, he could kind of, like, you know, I mean, his train would go off the rails, but he would bring it back. Like, he can't do that anymore. Like, now he just, like, now he just goes on these, like, weird tangents and, like, just completely loses the plot. Like I said, enough to the point where he was having a town hall rally, could tell that he wasn't, like, putting it together, and then he literally said, no more questions. Who likes questions? Let's play the music. And then he stood around and danced for 40 minutes. When he was supposed to be having questions.
Well, and now we can come to this other portion of this.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, another now, you know, it's contentious for me to vote for him. Mm-hmm. It kind of is, because I've never really been a huge Trump guy. I'm not voting for Trump necessarily. Like, it's kind of similar. Like, where it's not a vote for him, it's a vote for... I don't like what I'm seeing happening in the Democratic Party. It's not the same Democratic Party that I once knew.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it just feels like there's some suspicious shit happening that I don't like what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we're talking about the campaigns themselves, one thing that I do like is J.D. Vance. I like J.D. Vance as a statesman. I think he speaks well. I think he's very...
Mm-hmm.
You can't deny that he can at least get his point across clearly. Forget whatever his stances are. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
He comes across as intelligent. He seems to know what he's talking about. Again, let's forget his political stances and whatever. We could dive into that too.
I mean,
but you can't
the
deny...
one thing that I will say about that is, like, regardless of how I feel about what he's saying, like, I feel like I can very, very easily see how much he's lying. I feel like during that debate with Tim Walz, like, I was watching him as he was kind of like, he was dodging questions, he was redefining words, like, in the middle of what he was saying.
They all dodge questions, so that's a political
but I'm just
tactic.
saying, he plays the game well. You're right. He comes off as very charismatic. He comes off as eloquent. But if you listen to him, you can tell that he's lying. He's lying about everything that he says.
I mean, I guess that just depends on who you ask.
And to me, like, I'm looking at that. Well, no, I mean, he is lying. Like, the Springfield thing, he was lying about that.
Which one's
like the thing about the people eating the pets?
That wasn't false.
Yes, it was.
There's videos of it.
There's not a single video of a Haitian migrant eating a pet.
Well, I guess
There is a video of a white woman who is a citizen of the United States and always has been and is a resident of Springfield, Ohio, eating an animal. Yes, that happened. Haitian migrants, that never happened.
No, I agree. Well, we're kind of in the middle here because she wasn't white. But she was an American citizen. But she wasn't white.
Okay.
So we're pretty much just falling wherever.
Yeah.
But yes,
I guess I misspoke there. I guess I more meant to say American.
She was American.
Yeah.
Yes, and that was a false statement that was made,
right,
and thrown off.
Well, I apologize for misspeaking.
Well, I'm just
misrepresenting.
We're just finding it.
Right. I mean, we want to we want to correct the record.
And really, she was just a drug addict. which also is another issue.
I mean, still, either way, like, the fact of the matter is that, like, he knew that was a lie, but it was a lie that they were trying to campaign on, and they were trying to do damage control.
Well,
for
now
the like, I've seen it on TV thing.
Okay, but I will say this too. Now, I can't verify this. This is just what I've heard. I have heard people from these areas talk about seeing people killing animals in the park, like ducks and shit like that, and just right in front of families, like killing. These are, I don't know if they're, I can't verify that they're immigrants.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, sure, like, anyone can say anything, but without evidence, it doesn't matter.
Well, that's fair. That's fair. I do think,
That's all.
I do think immigration is an issue that is worth discussing.
You know,
as
we
well.
tried to fix that.
Wasn't she in charge of this?
No. We put a bill in Congress. It was bipartisan, it was supported on a bipartisan level to fix the border. This happened like, I don't know, probably like a year ago now. But we put a bill, and it was supported by Democrats, it was supported by Republicans, it was supported by border agents, it was supported by everybody. And then, this is on record, Donald Trump told the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, told him to not pass that bill because the border is his big political bargaining chip. Now that they've, like, beaten the abortion thing, that's their only thing. And you can tell on every single ad, that's all they talk about is the border. That's all that they've got. They've got the border, and they've got transgender stuff. That's the only things they're running on. And transgender stuff is not enough to win a presidential election on. But the border is something that really scares a lot of people, because if there's one thing that you can say about especially white people in America, it's that people with different colored skin is very, very scary to them.
I think that's an unfair statement.
I think that it's absolutely the case and always has been.
No.
And you see it exactly.
I have to completely push back on that.
With the rhetoric that they're saying about how he's saying that they're coming from these terrible countries, and now he's like, They've talked about how America is the world's garbage can and all of that stuff. Well, dude, who are they talking about? Are they talking about Europeans? No, they're not. They're talking about Latin American people, South American people, and Middle Eastern people. Guess what they all have in common, dude? It's the fact that they're all like dark-skinned people. And that's always, ever since the beginning of this country, has always been the boogeyman, has always been the way to rally people around and to do all of this stuff. And you saw that that rally that they just did in Madison Square Garden, where they were saying all that stuff about Puerto Rico, and they were doing all of that stuff. They never, ever, ever do that about any countries that are predominantly white. They don't even do it about South Africa, because once again, predominantly white. But they will target every other country that has a dark-skinned person and tell you about how those people are drug addicts, and how those guys are bad, and how they're bad hombres, and all of that stuff. It's always been the boogeyman.
I disagree with that in the sense of how you've worded it. I don't agree that it's because they're people of color. I do believe that countries like Venezuela have sent their worst people. Just because they're people of color does not mean that they're just inherent. Like, if you're sending your criminals here, emptying your prisons and sending criminals here. Venezuela's crime rate has gone down because their criminals have been sent here. This is a fact. Like, there's so many different countries. I can't name the exact ones. I know Venezuela as one for sure. Their crime rates have gone down because they are sending their criminals here. It's not because they're brown bad people. It's because they are just bad people. They happen to come from these countries. So the idea of I was
talking about the political bargaining chip of it.
But that's not fair to just assume that people are scared of brown people. That seems like a very unfair statement to make.
Have been. No, I'm not saying you.
Yeah, but I'm
not necessarily not saying.
But I'm just saying this could be any. Like, that's just a generalization statement that is very unfair to make. Like, you can't generalize a group of people by saying that they're all racist. Just because of this...
History speaks for itself.
That's not fair either. I mean, what do you say to somebody who's of color that sides with, or that agrees with that statement, or that agrees with border control? Like, are they racist too?
I'm not saying that they're that, like...
There's plenty of people of color that don't that disagree with the way the border has been handled. I went to Aurora, Colorado. That shit is real.
It's not nearly
No.
what they're making it out.
I was there, dude. I went there. I heard from the people who live there.
They're just as easily swayed.
They live there. They see it happening.
Like that whole video that happened where those guys were like running up into that apartment complex was not at all what it was like
I was
played to be.
I was in an Uber with a Venezuelan immigrant who I asked, "Is this really happening?" And he verified to me, "Yes, it is. Like it is what you see it to be." A Venezuelan immigrant. I asked him, I was like, because I was curious. I said, "Is all this shit about these crime syndicates real?" And he said, "Yes, it is. He's from Aurora, Colorado. Why would he lie about that? He lives there."
I mean, I can definitely like level with you that I feel like he believed that was the case. I don't necessarily know either, so I'm not gonna play the expert on this thing either.
But as I said, and it's not even just the border crisis comes worse. It like whatever. I am on the side of people seeking a better life. Mm-hmm. That in and of itself.
Well, and that's what this conversation should really be about, rather than like whatever about semantics and stuff. Like the actual political issue that is the border and the border crisis. Because yes, there is a crisis at the border, and nobody on the left is trying to tell you that that's not the case.
Well, nobody on the right is trying to stop that, I don't think.
Dude, yes, they are. Well, like I said, Donald Trump got a hold of Mike Johnson and told him to kill that bill so that they could run on it. Well, that happened.
But why have we not been hearing more about that?
Dude, that's all. They've talked about that in every debate. Kamala Harris has talked about that in every interview
we have
that
proof,
she's
we have proof,
done.
We have proof of that, or is
yes, that's on record that he made that phone call.
I've never heard that.
It doesn't mean that it didn't happen.
Well, I'm just saying. I just feel like I would have heard about this.
It did. Like I said, look at
is this just being flooded through certain left-wing media?
No, dude. It's like I said. It's on record.
Well, I will look into it. Like because that if that is true, I should know about that. But I'm just saying I have not heard that.
Now, you're going to see, like, they've muddied the waters afterwards, and they've said, well, we killed the bill because this and this and this and this. But here's the thing. Like I said, it was supported, bipartisan, and it was, and it was supported by border control agents, and it was a shoo-in, and it was a good bill that was going to solve a lot of those problems. It was going to put, more people at the border to stop that stuff. It was going to help with, like some architecture. I don't remember exactly how it all was. And we're going to build a wall because that's not the answer. But there was a lot of different things that were going into this build to like help solve that problem. Is it a problem that's ever going to be completely solved? Well, no, not unless if we like build an ocean where Mexico is. Like, it's not going to be a completely solvable issue, but we had a bill in place ready to pass that was going to solve it. And then all of a sudden, it changed. And it was because, like I said, he got a hold of people and told them not to pass this bill. And it's not the first time that he's done that either. He's doing that right now in Israel. He's gotten a hold of Benjamin Netanyahu and said not to, not to strike any sort of like truce or treaty or deal or anything with Gaza because they're they're banking on like that being a political issue that they can win, the Israel-Gaza conflict, which, I mean, I don't even know if we have enough time to get into that. I'm just saying, it's another thing that he's done. And this is something that has been part of the Republican playbook for years. I talked to you about how I don't like Reagan. You know that whole thing about how Reagan, said, on the day that he became president, how he, heroically came out and said, you release those hostages or I'm coming for you. And then Iran, terrified of him, did it. None of that shit's real. He actually got a hold of Iran before he won the presidency and made a deal with them to release those people if he became president. So then he came out and he did this big theatrical thing, but it was already in the books to happen. So yeah, it looked nice, but it's fraudulent.
So this is why I fucking hate politics.
Because it's all like a bunch of lies.
Dude, it's all
stuff.
fucking staged bullshit.
Yeah.
If that's the case, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
That's well known. I'm not making that
well,
up.
no, and I'm not going to sit here and try and argue it because I don't have anything to argue. Like,
Right.
I believe that that's true because I believe it could be true because that's just how politicians are, man. Like, it's all backstage dealings. Like, and I've talked about this before too. This is why I stay in the middle because I don't believe any politician has our best interest in mind.
I agree with you.
You can say it to my face and try and that's what politicians do, man. They tell you what you want to hear and this, that, and the other. And I don't believe that there's not a such thing as a politician that actually gives a shit. I think most of them do, but I think they just end up falling into the corrupt just line up, or they go into politics with a bright-eyed bushy tail.
Yeah, that they actually do want to do what they
and then they just have
say.
to then they just end up falling into the
lobbyist thing. I mean, in the end, dude, it's companies.
We could talk about lobbyists, we could talk about deep state, whatever it is at control. There's a bigger power at control, and I don't think that's hard to imagine.
Oh, dude, it's companies.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of things. It's probably companies, it's probably private, powers that be.
Yeah,
like private
the companies.
Well, no, I'm saying companies, but it could also be, for all.
I mean, I don't think that there's like Illuminati stuff going on.
I think that's
the
possible.
Illuminati is the rich people. It's people like Peter Thiel. Like, do you know who Peter Thiel is?
Sounds familiar. So
Peter Thiel is a huge, huge, huge Republican donor. Like, billionaire, like all of the stuff that you would imagine. He's the person. So, I mean, I know that you said that you like J.D. Vance, and that's cool, but like J.D. Vance was like a nobody until he became the vice presidential candidate. You know why? He was handpicked by Peter Thiel. And the reason why, and this is the whole thing about this election. This is kind of what I want you to like chew on here for a second, because here's the whole thing that's actually happening. If you want to get into some Illuminati shit, it's Peter Thiel, and here's the whole thing. Donald Trump, his mental facets are not where they used to be. The dude is declining. Even if you listen to the way that he talks, he sounds tired. I don't know if this dude has 4 years of this left in him, but that's the thing. That's the plan, okay? Donald Trump is not the candidate. I know that he is, literally, but he's not. J.D. Vance is the candidate, and the reason why he's the candidate is because Peter Thiel picked him. That's who he wants to be president. He's somebody who toes the party line. And you can see that with, I don't remember if we talked about it last time, but the Heritage Foundation.
Yes.
And
Project
Project 2025 and all of that stuff. So he's linked to all that. The person who is like the head architect of Project 2025 wrote a book, and J.D. Vance wrote like a foreword to it. So he's like very like, these guys are very well known together. Like they're all a part of this whole thing together, with Peter Thiel being like the person who's kind of like running the show because he's this huge donor. So he picks J.D. Vance, tells the Republican Party that he needs to run alongside Trump, who's declining. And so they run him. Now, they have a few options if they win. The options are they can wait for him to die on his own, which they're probably not going to do because the dude like consumes all of this soda and fast food and stuff and somehow hasn't died, so he might be immortal.
Well, we'll just get another assassination.
So we Amendment 2020 or Jesus. We 25th Amendment him, or we assassinate him, right? And now I'm not going to play the conspiracy game entirely. I understand that there was like a real assassination attempt against him with that first one that happened where he got hit in the ear by shrapnel or whatever it was that happened. I believe that one was real. And the reason why is because the person who did it was a registered Republican who had previously been a Trump fan and then stopped being a Trump fan. If they wanted to stage this thing, I don't think that they would have chosen him. They would have chosen somebody who was a Democrat or whatever, or an immigrant or whatever. But here's the thing. So we had one that happened. I think that they didn't stop it. They knew it was going to happen and they didn't stop it. And the reason why I think that is because people saw him on that roof way before it happened. All of those like people who were spectators that were like pointing and all that stuff. They had snipers that were all around, and there's no way they didn't see him. There was only like 2 real buildings in that area. It was where Trump was and the building that the shooter was on. You tell me that they didn't see him before that happened?
There's definitely conspiracy.
They definitely had him on, like they had him on scope, and they saw him aiming his weapon and didn't do anything.
Until he shot.
So, then he shot, then they stopped him. And here's the reason why, in my opinion. I think that the second assassination attempt, the one with the guy with the gun in the bush, I think that one was fake. I think that was never, ever, ever going to be a real assassination attempt. And the reason why is because I think that They want to make JD Vance the guy. So now, if they so choose, they might 25th Amendment him. However, that's bad because that's going to make the Trump coalition upset. And they don't want to do that. So what do? Well, he either dies naturally or you get rid of him. You're not going to force him to step down. Donald Trump will never do that. All of this stuff that I'm saying, Donald Trump has no idea. Like, he's just being played the fool here. So he's never going to step down on his own, and nobody else is really thinking about this. But here's the thing. So then they assassinate him, right? But we've had one real assassination attempt and one, in my opinion, fake assassination attempt. So now, after they do it, they make him a martyr, which brings a whole bunch more support beneath JD Vance, and then they can say, well, look, we had two, unless if they contrive another one here in the next couple of days, we had two assassination attempts that we already foiled. They just couldn't, we just couldn't stop it forever, and then he dies as a martyr, JD Vance becomes the president, and everything goes great.
So, one question later, but the other one being, when the first assassination attempt happened, JD Vance was not named the vice president yet. So why would they try to let it happen?
Huh?
Why would they try and let it happen if JD Vance wasn't even named the vice president yet? That wouldn't fall into conspiracy line.
I think that all of that stuff was like being planned already before all that happened. I mean, honestly, I get what you're asking, and I know that the whole thing is a little bit hinky.
Oh,
more than anything, what I'm saying, I know that what I'm saying is hinky because of what you're saying. Well, what if he had gotten shot? Is the question to what I said, right? And I'll be real with you. I don't have a great answer to that because, I'm just musing here over what I think is really going on, okay? I don't know the answer to why did they just let him do it? What if he'd actually killed Donald Trump? Because that would have been really bad, right? I think. So I don't necessarily have an answer to that question. More than anything, what I feel like is backing up what I'm saying is the fact that there's just no fucking way that they just that they just didn't see him until he's shot.
I think we can both.
I think we can both agree shady that happened.
Yes,
there.
I think we can both agree there was some fuckery afoot for that whole thing. Like there was some shady shit that happened that was not like it was premeditated in a way.
Right.
Now, I could weave a thread that leads it. I'm not saying that the Biden administration had anything to do with it. I could say that there were some deep state, whatever that definition is to you, reasons why they would want to eliminate Trump. And forget about what you're talking about with Peter Thiel and that aside,
you understand that that's the reason why I'm putting all of this together is because of that.
I'm just saying.
But if we're saying that's not not what the deal is,
we could weave the thread that it was other outside sources that were trying to eliminate Trump for whatever reason as well, like whatever that may be.
However, here's why, because I've thought about that too. And I gave that a fair shake because I'm not going to sit here and act like I think that one side or the other is the good guys. I think that they're probably all bad guys.
We can at least agree there is some shady shit in what happened to that.
Well, now, clearly it was shady. I just said that too. But I know. I gave you my theory on why it's shady. Now, with what you said, I've considered that as well. I don't think that it's right. And the reason why I don't think it's right is because, it's way too risky for us to try to assassinate him because you have two things that can happen, or you have three things that can happen. One, it's successful. Okay. Now you have two outcomes from that. One, now they lose the election because they can't put up somebody that galvanizes the Trump base or whatever. I don't think that, but the other thing is that it really galvanizes them into whoever they put up because now their guy got killed and now they want revenge. And so I think that that's a political suicide to do that. The other thing is that it fails. That's your other thing. And if it fails, then under any other circumstance, any time that there's been a failed assassination attempt against a politician, they have gone on to win that election, really, really well, right? So I think that for the left to try to assassinate him.
Well, I'm not saying it's the left.
Well, right. I'm just saying, in that specific scenario. I know that you said not necessarily Joe Biden.
I'm saying people that want to just eliminate Trump in general.
Right. Well, who would that be?
deep, like whatever these deep state that aren't politically aligned. They're aligned with what's in their best interest.
I mean,
these
I want you
corporations
to
and things.
Right. Well, dude, I don't think that it's going to be them because, like, if you look at the way that he's like building his like tax policies and stuff like that, it's going to be the corporations that are going to benefit.
Well,
so it's not going to be them.
Okay, but I mean,
it's not going to be foreign or it's not going to be foreign countries
because
they're going to benefit too.
It could be.
They're going to benefit.
Well, not if he's going to put a bunch of tariffs and taxes on these countries.
That's not going to do anything to the countries. You know who pays tariffs? The importers. The moment that it leaves the ports of the exporting country, they're done. The tariffs are paid at the port, and it's done by the importing country. The last time that they did tariffs, it destroyed our economy, and it's because it's a sales tax, dude. I have read this from all kinds of different economists and, just people across the internet. There's not a single person that can explain how tariffs are a good thing for the middle class, and the reason why is because it's not. It's paid by us. We're the importing country. Tariffs are not the answer, dude. Tariffs are bad for the country. I promise you that.
Well, but okay, so
like, dude, if Kamala Harris said that she was going, if she said that she was going to do that, I would 100% say the exact same thing here.
Okay, well,
because tariffs are paid by the importing country.
I want to say one more thing about the assassination thing, and then I got another question for you.
Yeah.
Do you at least agree that there's some suspicion and something weird about the fact that we know nothing about this guy?
The one who did that assassination attempt? I mean, we do know a little bit.
I mean, like why don't we know everything?
Well, here's the thing.
And the fact that when you heard about when they went to his house and it was scrubbed clean, there was no dishes, there was no nothing. There's some suspicious shit with that. Like,
yeah, I don't know a ton about all that. I know, I saw like some Facebook posts that he had made like in the past.
Why don't we know his contacts? Why don't we have any information about his phone records?
I would imagine that we probably have more information than what we as the common folk
but why
get to
don't
know.
we know? We should know.
Should we?
I think so.
What value does that information have to you?
No, because the only reason they would suppress that information is because there's reasons for suppressing that information.
I don't know if it's really like suppressed.
I mean, why don't we know more about the JFK assassination?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that one, the water's so muddy at this point.
We also know more about the JFK assassination than this one, and we live in a time where we have way more technology to know more. So why don't we? This is the thing that people love, is conspiracies and like so many different thoughts and information about JFK all these years later. Why wouldn't there be more interest and more like threat, like diving into this guy? We know nothing about what his...
I mean, honestly, I just don't think that there's a lot to know.
But I think JFK was assassinated by the United States.
Yeah, like I
said.
So
why wouldn't they do it again?
Like, the water's so muddy on that.
So if they were willing to do it once, why wouldn't they do it again?
I mean, I guess I'm having a hard time figuring out why they would.
Because there's a reason.
I mean, unless he is a threat to democracy.
But was JFK a threat to democracy?
He was a threat to like the status quo.
He was a threat to not wanting to go to war. That's why they got rid of him. And the second that Lyndon B. Johnson became president, we went to Vietnam. Mm-hmm. We fully went into Vietnam.
Well, yeah, and obviously that's very profitable. That's what I'm saying.
And what's happening right now?
He was a threat to businesses.
What's happening right now? We got 2 foreign wars happening, more than that we are not involved in, but we are. We're profiting off that shit.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't think that either. I mean, honestly, dude, like, Kamala's the one who's been talking about fighting those wars. Donald Trump has talked about...
See, but I don't know...
He's like, I'll end them.
Then why haven't we ended them?
Huh?
Why aren't they ended? If we're going to end them...
No, I'm saying Donald Trump is the one who's saying, I'm just going to end those.
Yeah.
Like...
And that's not good for business.
Right.
So that's why they would want to eliminate him.
Okay.
Because it's not good for business.
Yeah.
You're making
Sorry.
money on the
yeah,
wars.
I kind of like lost the train there for a second, clearly.
In addition,
Yeah,
that also,
I don't know, man.
there's also benefit to be lent to the fact that Dick Cheney gave his endorsement of Kamala Harris. Who is Dick Cheney? He is the CEO of Halliburton, who manufactures weapons for war.
I mean, dude, like every company does that.
I'm just saying.
Did you know Texas Instruments makes missiles?
Yeah, I know all that. Yeah, well, I'm just saying that
Yeah.
the fact, this whole idea that Dick Cheney is endorsing Kamala Harris because he is an anti, like he's switched sides, dude.
Oh
Dick
no,
Cheney
he hasn't switched sides.
No, Dick Cheney is one of the most. He's one of the fucking most despicable fucking people on the face of this planet.
I mean, you'll get no argument from me.
So the fact that he's endorsing her, from an outside perspective looking in, tells me that her presidency involves more continued war because it profits him. He profits off war.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I understand your thought process.
I'm
not like telling you that like you're definitely wrong or that that's stupid or anything. Like
it just makes
I just
sense.
don't really think that that's exactly what's going on.
But it makes sense.
Yeah,
in a way.
I can see the logic path.
And that's just basically, that's as far as I'm looking into it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's another thing that's problematic. I don't want to escalate war. And typically the Democratic Party has been anti-war. But lately it seems like they're not. And I'm not a fan of that either.
I mean, if there's the one place where I certainly do break with Kamala Harris, it's the way that she talks about how she wants to deal with the Israel conflict.
Well, and
you'll find no disagreement from me that that's not the way.
My take in that is probably not worth noting because it'd probably make me look really bad. I'll tell you off camera. But I don't want to say it vocally because I think it would make me look like a really shitty person.
Yeah.
But
well, I already know what your position is on it anyway.
But you know why it is. Mm-hmm. So wait, just so I'm clear before I say my next thing. What is her take on this?
I mean, basically, like, what she's said is that she believes that Gaza, like, that the Gazan people, not Hamas, but the Gazan people have every right to live and to not be put under, like, the threat of subjugation of Israel. However, at the same time, Israel has every right to defend themselves after that one thing that happened a year ago, and that America is basically going to back them up as much as they need in order to defend themselves. Which... Well, I think you know.
Wait, what was the last one? Oh. What was the last statement you made? I kind of...
Was basically just that Israel has every right to defend themselves as they see fit, and that America is going to help them, do that.
Yeah.
Now, she's, she said the same thing that everybody wants to hear about, like, not boots on the ground and all that stuff, which basically means that we're just going to continue funding and weaponizing this, genocide that's happening.
I'll say two things there. Because in this conflict particularly, I do find it odd that we have any vested interest whatsoever because, I mean, the only interest we have is that Israel is an ally.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think there's more to that and why every politician on both sides, whether it be Democrat or Republican, always backs Israel. I think there's plenty to dive into that, which we probably can't get to.
We don't have enough time for that.
But we could.
And I don't have enough expertise in that realm either.
But it does seem a little suspicious that is the case.
Definitely.
So that alone is just one thing in itself. The, shit. Now I'm back to losing my train of thought.
Yeah.
I will say this thing that happened, like when you say it like that, when you say this thing that happened a year ago, it wasn't nothing.
Right. I mean, I know that, but the thing is that, like, if you look at the death toll from that one event versus what they have done afterwards, like, they've more than, like, here's the thing.
Yeah.
What happened to them was an atrocity. Yeah. I'm not arguing that, not even a little bit. But what they have done is so much cataclysmically more of an atrocity that, like, it's it's not worth it anymore. And so I'm not trying to say that the thing that happened was just a little thing. But at this point, it's been so dwarfed by what they've done that at this point, me, just some random friggin' schmo from Montana who doesn't know a lot or even particularly find this to
Invested.
be like the most interesting political thing. But in my opinion, I just don't. Well, it's been so dwarfed by what Israel has done against innocent people that at this point it just doesn't feel like that big of a deal to me anymore.
Well, you won't find me taking a particular side in either way because I think both sides are fucked up, and I think both sides...
I mean, I think the Gazan civilians are just trying to live.
Oh, no.
I mean, the war here is in between the Israeli government and Hamas.
Yeah. No,
But the only people that are being killed are civilians.
Well,
so when
Israeli civilians have died too.
Well, no, I know that, but I'm just saying between the two, like, where am I going to break? Well, I'm going to break on which one's doing them, or I'm going to break against the person who's willingly doing more civilian killing, because those guys, I mean, in the end, it's more than I know about, so I'm not really going to make, like, a big stance on this, because it's not like I know totally what's going on and all of that stuff. But just from what I've seen, I'm looking at this, and I'm like, Israel at this point is the bad guy. And I'm not saying that I want Hamas to win. That's nuts. Like, I mean, they're clearly, like, the baddest bad guy. But in this conflict, like, at this point, like, it just, this needs to stop.
I agree. You're not going to get any argument from me. Like I said,
they're intercepting, like, phones and putting bombs in that. Like, it's bananas, dude.
I'm not good with anything that's going on in that, with all that conflict. I don't like any of it.
Yeah.
Like, I disagree with all of it. And the problem is, no matter what, whether it's Trump or Kamala.
Yeah. So it's comma, like the punctuation,
yeah.
and then la.
Whether it's either one of them, they're going to take the side of Israel.
Right.
And I think we can have a whole separate discussion on that, but we won't.
The one thing that I did want to say, the reason why I'm still breaking for Kamala on this issue is because she's the only one who said that Gaza still, like, should be considered. Donald Trump has gone on record, saw it in a rally, I think, where he said that if it was up to him, he would blow the entire Gaza Strip off of the face of the earth or something like that.
Well, I don't know about all that. I don't agree with that. But also, anything any politician says, I take with a grain of salt.
For sure.
Whether or not she says that and says it now, we'll see how it is after.
Yeah, no, obviously.
Because the amount of times we've been told this, that, and the other, and then it doesn't happen.
But if I have to pick between two, I'm going to pick the one with the rhetoric that's closer to where I stand in the end.
Let's take a pee break.
Okay.
Because I'm going to whiz myself, and then we'll come back to this.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah! We were just having a conversation about how great a guys Bill Clinton and JFK were.
Good presidents.
They had... But then that's just the problem, is like you get guys that they do well in office, but you find out that they're kind of just pieces of shit anyway. And that sucks too. You get guys that are, they do a good job.
Yeah.
But they,
in the end, like, that's all I care about. I don't want politicians to be idols. I don't feel like they're the people to be, like, looked up to and all of that stuff. I just want them to run the country well. Like Bill Clinton, I wouldn't want to, like, raise my boys to be like him.
Nor around him.
But, but he did a great job with the economy and with quite a few different things in his presidency. Did it have some fallbacks? Of course. I don't think anybody's going to perfect this. But did a good job. Okay, real quick, before we get into our next topic, I did want to just put this on the record. With all that stuff that we talked about with the Peter Thiel thing, I'm not saying that I want Donald Trump to be assaitiated. I don't know if anybody would ever, like, perceive that way or anything, but I would never, ever, like, celebrate or wish for the death of a human being.
No, I think it came off correctly that what you were just laying out possibility of what what the theory was in that.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I didn't even.
I was just thinking of like what tactics would be used to get to what I think the end goal is here, but I don't want it to seem like I'm like crossing my fingers for that or anything. Quite the opposite.
No, I didn't. I didn't think that at all.
Okay.
Let's see. So, one thing I did want to mention, we touched on the border a little bit already.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about it then, and then we kind of diverted. I think more than anything, the biggest issue with the border has nothing to do with, I obviously sending. I believe that they are like pumping criminal syndicates into our country because they're able to do it, and that's not good.
Certainly the cartels, yes.
Now that is the biggest issue for me. Drugs. We have a huge drug. I mean, we've always had a drug epidemic for as long as I can fucking remember. But it's a constant thing that needs to be. It'll never be fixed.
Right.
But it needs to be
managed.
Yes. It needs to be fixed. That's a huge problem as far as the border goes. Now, we can agree and disagree on how things are going to get handled and who's going to handle it. It just needs to get handled. I'm glad.
I agree.
I am glad to know that you are. Because I feel like there's this rhetoric that the left believes that there's not this issue with the border.
I don't think that is the case. I think that maybe that has been the position in the past. I don't think that that's the position now.
Right.
And like I said, we put in a bill to try to fix it. So you know that we're trying to fix it.
And I think, like I said, the rhetoric is maybe not that it's not an issue, but that it's not as big of an issue as it's being portrayed as. We can talk about, like, whatever with these criminal syndicates that have come in. Put that off the table. Drugs coming into this country, and even more dangerous, terrorists that have our demise in case, whether that be Russian, Chinese, whoever wants us destroyed. They already have, the FBI has a huge list of potential threats that are already in this country, and there are ex-CIA operatives or whatever, I don't know what you would call them,
something like that,
agents, who have said multiple times another 9/11 is going to happen very soon, and that's terrifying.
Yeah,
and that.
Yeah, I don't know like a whole lot about all of that stuff, like.
So those are just points on the border that I wanted to just bring up as issues that I am concerned about. Right.
Well, and I just don't think that like you and I are going to have like much to like contend with each other on, because I think that we both agree that there is an issue at the border.
Now, yes, and I think we can just pretty much leave it there. It needs to be fixed. It needs to be.
Both sides understand that, and both sides are working on it. Honestly, the only reason why it's such a big deal this election cycle is because it's always been a winning issue for the right to campaign on.
Again.
And honestly, you know what I'm going to say? Okay, this is a thing, but like just a quick aside. That's something that I feel like is a point against the right. And the reason why is because when you have a party that has, a handful, and both sides have it, right? Both sides have a handful of political issues that they run on. So here's the thing. Do you fix those? No. Because then you can't run on them anymore.
I mean, we could say the same thing about.
And like that's a concern for me because I want reproductive rights. I want Roe v. Wade to be put back like as the law of the land. I want it to be put in the Constitution, all that kind of stuff. But like I'm worried that there's a potential that the left wing is going to recognize that this is a great campaign issue, because that's our campaign issue. If you see that, you see it on all the commercials and all the ads and all that stuff, that if we decide that that's our winning issue, why would we not want to just continue riding that pony every election cycle?
And that's what it seems like that's a consistent issue that gets brought up every election cycle. It didn't.
So I just don't think that either side, I mean, I don't know about it with reproductive rights, and I don't know it for the border either. It just feels like when they have these big things like this, that the last thing that you would want to do is completely solve it. And you can see that with what happened with, like, I don't think that the Republican Party ever actually wanted Roe v. Wade to be overturned because it was such a great bargaining chip for them. And now they don't have it anymore. That's why they've only run on the border, because usually they run on the border and on religious stuff, you know, and it's always, the religious thing is always as it relates to Roe v. Wade. They didn't have that this year. So, because they've done it, they won.
Right.
It's no longer a campaign issue. That's a problem.
Well, and before that, it was gay rights, and that's been...
Yeah. Well, that's been settled for now, but that one's more become a campaign issue for us, because if Roe v. Wade goes away, like, it, you know, like, the gay marriage thing, law, is a Supreme Court thing. Just the same way that Roe v. Wade was. It's a precedent, it's something that they ruled on, and therefore it's settled, is how it's always been. But now that we've seen that Roe v. Wade goes away, well, where does this end now?
Right.
Because LGBT rights, and I mean, it goes even further than that. Like, one of the things that people are worried about is that there's, like, I mean, how far does it go? Could it go as far as, like, interracial marriage? It could.
That'd be a hard
Civil
stretch.
rights?
I feel like that's a hard stretch.
Like the actual, like, equality, like, no segregation thing, that's Supreme Court too. And here's the thing. I know that sounds like a stretch, but if you would have told me 10 years ago, 12 years ago, that Roe v. Wade was going to be overturned, I would have told you no.
I feel like Roe v. Wade, to compare Roe v. Wade versus civil rights is
obviously
stretch.
Obviously I'm talking like that's way up the ladder.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that to me,
the
in my opinion, if Roe v. Wade was on the table, then anything is on the table, because Roe v. Wade was not unpopular. It was very popular.
Well, that's interesting that you bring that up, though, about the potential that the left might have allowed it to happen in a way.
Well, I don't know if I would necessarily say that. I think that they didn't want it to happen, but now that it's happened...
Right, okay. But it's,
And
I
that's
wouldn't put it past any political party to try and...
to continue to have a political
Yes.
or like a political bargaining chip.
Yeah.
Stay the way that it is, regardless of who's being harmed by it.
God, it just seems so fucking odd to think, though, like, so you're just gonna, like, whatever side it is and whatever the issue might be, to consistently keep it an issue so that you can stay in power for at most 8 years for what, though? What benefit?
No. They're all going, like, they use it to run all the time.
Yeah.
Like I said, this thing that happened with Donald Trump calling Mike Johnson and killing the border bill and all that stuff. Well, why? Because they want to run on it. So now what are they going to do? Let's say that they get into power. So here's what they do. This is the tactic. You go in there, now you have to, like, you have to show that you're trying to make good on your campaign promises, right? So you put a border bill in there, but you make it nuts, and you put in a bunch of stuff that doesn't even relate to that, like making it so that like they could put in a bill that says, here's all the stuff that fixes the border, also abortion is illegal in every state. And now, obviously, the Democrats are going to vote that down. Even if it's a good bill otherwise, they're going to vote that down. But, so then the Republicans go back and they say, no, we really tried to make that bill work. We were trying to make our promises to you work. But the Democrats voted it down. So they're the ones, and so that's the thing. You have this push-pull of they made it stop, therefore we get to continue running on it. But they're making it intentionally a bill that cannot survive.
But to what benefit?
So that they
if
continue,
nothing changes, though.
So that they continue winning elections.
So
and why? Because they make a lot of money being politicians.
I don't think that...
It's all lobbyist stuff. It's all super PAC money. It's all personal gain. And if you think about this, in my opinion, if you ever are asking the question of why would a person do this, the answer is figure out how it benefits them monetarily, financially. Not even like personally or sexually or anything like that. It's how does it benefit a person monetarily? That is the only answer every single time you're confused as to why somebody would do something so stupid.
Yeah. No, you're right. And that right there is the biggest issue in politics is, I mean, money. You got to get money out of politics. It'll never happen. Like, it will happen. It'll happen when we completely implode and
Right.
we become Rome.
But here's the thing. The only people who are going to... Well, that's the thing. We are Rome. Like, and that's the whole thing about... Well, whatever. That's a different thing. But anyway, getting money out of politics, the only person who's going to do that is the politicians. Or the companies that are supplying the money. But they're both benefiting.
Yeah, so it won't happen.
So who's going to do it? Us? We're not even going to... It's not even going to come to a vote. Unless you want to build a guillotine, we're not going to affect that kind of change.
Well, we could have another revolution.
That's what I was referencing.
Yeah, that's what
But
I'm
here's
saying.
the thing. That's not going to happen either. When you think to yourself, like, okay, here's a story that happened to me, and I'm going to relate this back to what we're talking about right now, okay? But here's the thing that happened to me once. One time, I was in an apartment, and I heard a domestic dispute. And it was a very significant one. And there was a child that was living there, and I could hear her screaming and yelling and crying because the walls were thin. And I was hearing like these two adults yelling at each other, and I was hearing these like loud, like booming impacts, like against like the wall or something like that, where it was like shaking the whole house. What do? We call the cops, right? Because like there's clearly like, if nothing else, I don't know if that kid was being abused. I'm thinking no. I'm thinking that there was a battle happening between the two adults and the kid was witnessing it. However, that's still an unsafe situation for that kid to be in. So I call the cops, right? What do? Well, let me tell you what they did. They didn't even come. They didn't even show up. You know why? Because cops, all of this shit about serving and protecting and all of that stuff, none of that is real. The cops are not here for that purpose. The cops are here to protect two things. The cops are here to protect the property of the government and to protect the property of the corporations. So, we're going to start a revolution? No. And you know why? Because the police will stop us.
I don't believe in that either.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
They'll make a good show of it.
well, that one incident made you just lose all faith in police.
Dude, have you like not heard about this kind of stuff? I mean, every time you're asking, well, why doesn't the cops do something about that? Why don't they do something about the roving motorcycle gangs that are driving up Grand all the time and driving on the sidewalk, and like the Fast and Furious cosplayers that are doing all that stuff? It's just they don't care, man. They don't care unless something gets stolen. And
So wait, you want them to do more?
I want them to do it fairly, but like, yeah. I mean,
But this is also an issue where in the last 4 to 8 years, I don't fully remember, but this is where cops have been degraded down because of so many things that have happened in...
Well, correct, but it's because they do it wrong. Like,
well,
they don't have good training, and then they end up like resorting to violence.
I agree.
Way too fast, and that's what that whole issue is. Now, here's what I'm saying: I want the cops to be able to to be able like to learn and to be able to effectively use like non-lethal tactics. De-escalation tactics is what I'm looking for, and I want them to be able to like maintain peace and like to protect people. That's what I want them to do.
Well, you're not going to get that by defunding them.
Yeah, the whole defunding thing is like a much larger definition than what you've heard. The whole point behind defunding, and I'm not even really sure if I like support this idea the way that I'm going to describe it or not. Like it's such a complicated thing. But here's the thing. Defunding the police is not about like making it so we don't have cops anymore or like destroying entire precincts and areas or something like that. Now it sounds like that because that's what the phrase is defund the police. But what the idea is that taxpayer money funds police precincts, right? So the idea of defund is that if you have a precinct that continually has problems with violence and killing and, like improper practices, then what you do is you take the money away from those precincts into funding their operations and take that money and you put it into training operations to try to fix it rather than just continually funding what they're already doing. Nobody wants the cops to just disappear. I think that we can all figure out exactly what's going to happen if we do that. The idea is that we want cops that are bad to disappear. And honestly, like, that comes from vetting them better, and it comes from training them better. I think that there are a lot of cops that do bad things because they don't know what else to do, because they haven't been trained on how to do things correctly.
Well, and
as opposed to saying that all cops are bad.
Well, sure, but also, like, then why not just change the verbiage of defund? Obviously, that doesn't sound good.
It's very incendiary.
So just change
I don't
the
know.
verbiage.
I'm not the person who chose that.
I know, but and here's another thing.
I understand how it sounds.
Here's another reason why I believe cops have lessened their interactions with the public, is because everybody pulls a phone out and is like immediately assuming they're going to be dealt with in a harmful manner.
That's a good thing, though.
But if you're a cop and you're constantly being like, what do we do? And like, well, my rights, and I have the right for this, and it's like you're immediately starting it out with a confrontation,
right? But
I think the public needs to be trained as well again in just how to interact with police.
I mean, sure, but in the end, like, the police are like the adults in the room. Okay. They're the authority, so they're the ones who need to be able to handle this. They need to be able to handle confrontation.
But if you're being
they need to be able to handle all that.
If you're being
the thing
come
is
out with
that
aggression immediately all the way,
if you're doing things correctly, then it shouldn't be a problem that you're being filmed. Most of the times when I see videos where people are filming are filming a cop, they are away, or like they're in their car, or they're like away from the situation. You know, I've seen one where they're like in a restaurant or something. The person's sitting at his table and he's filming the cop while they're dealing with somebody else. And this cop turns around and starts harassing him for having his phone out, telling him to put his phone away and all of this stuff. Well, why? There should be no problem with him having his phone out. A public worker you're allowed to film that person. That's like protected. So here's the thing. The only reason that I can fathom that cop doesn't want to be filmed, it's because he's afraid that something might go wrong. And if something goes wrong, well, that's the cop's fault. Obviously there's times when they do have to use deadly force, okay? I saw one where, like, people were getting upset because this cop killed a black lady, and then you saw the cam video, and she was, like, coming at him with a knife. Now, obviously, in a perfect world, I would like for him to try to incapacitate her.
Yeah.
Whether it's, like, with a hold, or, like, if he's got to, like, shoot her in the leg, or whatever. Like, whatever it's got to be, I would prefer for that person to be incapacitated, because clearly they're having, like, a psychotic episode, and what they really need is help. However, if she's throwing a knife in his face, I'm not really going to blame him for maybe not, being like, okay, how do I effectively incapacitate this woman right now? Like, that's a lot to ask of somebody, like, to tactically think while they have a knife in their face. I understand that there are times when it's going to need to happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I'm just saying, we live in a time right now where it feels like most people who have interactions with police immediately start off confrontational, or they immediately start off with, it's unnecessarily confrontational. And the only
I've seen a lot of that from cops too.
Well, no, and I don't
even just personally.
Sure. Well, I don't disagree with that too. But you have to find a medium here. Why is that? Is it because they're getting fucked with all the time? And you can't have that either. Mm-hmm. You can't, like, if you're a cop and you're getting fucked with every interaction you have, you're gonna assume that you're just gonna get fucked with all the time. That's not good.
I mean, it's the nature of the biz right now.
Yeah,
like, dude. Doctors,
nurses,
teachers,
but that's what I'm saying.
They all deal with that.
But people need to be able to. The public needs to be able to be trained on how to properly act like a civilian and a human being, rather than just assuming the police are here to kill me or whatever.
I mean, sure, but
or violate my rights.
I mean, I think that there is some stuff. I mean, there's like media on like the internet about that, but obviously you're not trained like in school or whatever. But in the end, like, still what I feel like is in an interaction with a police officer, like between a civilian and police officer, who is the authority figure? The cop. They're the ones who are supposed to be the level head, and they're the ones who are supposed to be able to handle the situation correctly. And if they can't do that, then they shouldn't be a cop. I understand that it's stressful. Now, like, people will ask me when I talk about this, they'll say, well, have you ever been a cop before? And the answer is no. And you know why? Because I know that I wouldn't be able to handle it. So you know what? I chose to not be a cop. I was interested in it when I was a kid. As a teenager, I knew very quickly that I wasn't cut out for it. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing that I'm not a cop.
Yeah, but
you have to be the authority figure, and you have to be the one that can handle the confrontation. You have to.
And I
know that that's hard. And I know that that's hard because, you know some of the jobs that I've had in the past. When I worked over at that elementary school, I spent a lot of, like, basically my entire job was dealing with kids that were blowing out. And other people probably couldn't handle that, And you see it all the time, like in these videos that you see on the news where, like, an adult throws a kid or whatever. I don't know. You get the idea. But, like, that's the thing. What I'm saying about cops is what you would say about an adult in a school that flips out on a kid, because you would say, look, you're the adult in the room, you're the authority figure, you're the one that needs to keep the level head, and there's no argument to that. You could find that person, and they could say, well, dude, this kid has done this, and this, and this, and this, and this, all year long, and I just lost it. And everybody would be like, no, like, that doesn't pass the smell test, you can't treat people like that. And that's correct. That's the right way to feel about that. It's the same thing for cops. Yeah, but cops a lot of times are interacting with people who have mental health problems, or they, are like under the influence of something. They can't be, and other issues, but they can't be the ones that we depend on to be the level head in the situation. The cop has to be that.
Yeah, but you're also talking about cops dealing with adults, not children.
Yeah, but like I said, mental health.
That's a select number of interactions.
Dude, that's a lot of people.
Select number of interactions.
Dude, for cops, most of the people that they're interacting with are either going to be mentally ill or under the influence of something.
Yeah, but how many times...
Like, if they're functioning fine, the cops probably aren't dealing with them.
Well, how many traffic stops have you seen where immediately it's confrontation from a level-headed adult who is just trying to be confrontational for no fucking reason?
I don't know if I would say they're being confrontational.
Yeah, but it's being confrontational to just immediately be like, I know my rights, and, like, just comply.
I don't think that we're at a place where complying is the answer.
Well,
there's been more than enough things showing that even if you comply, that you might still not win.
Both adults in the situation, the cop and the civilian, need to just be adults.
Under a perfect system, yes, of course. I'm not saying that the person should be combative and angry and all of that kind of stuff. But here's the thing: there's been so many issues that has happened with the cops.
Okay, so
not being the adults in the room.
But here's the problem with that: is you only really see the bad times. How many interactions with cops happen on a daily basis, and you don't see them?
It doesn't change the fact that those situations continue to happen.
But they're the ones that get blown up.
I don't want to end up being a victim of something like that.
But you wouldn't see it if it wasn't just blown to the fucking 9 on every social media site or every media site.
Well, sure.
You would never know about it.
I think that it's good that we know about it.
But you don't know about the good ones either. When do you ever see the good ones?
I see that all the time.
Never.
Yes, I do.
Not as much as the bad ones.
I mean, it doesn't get as much publicity, but I see videos all the time of cops doing great things.
Yeah, but it's never as much. It's never as much.
I don't necessarily
to the point that you immediately assume when a cop comes up to you that it's going to be a bad interaction.
I don't know
because it's being shoved down our throats.
I don't know if that's really what's going on either. I think that people are just like, there's a likelihood, maybe not a great likelihood, but there is some percentage likelihood that this can go bad. So I'm going to have my phone out just in case.
Well, that's fine. I don't care about the phone thing. It's more like the way you have to, like, if you're immediately coming off combative or just aggressive.
I also feel like that happens way less than you're like purporting it to as well.
Right, but I'm just saying it does happen, and that doesn't help in any situation. I'm not saying cops being confrontational is good either. If a cop comes up and assumes this, that, or the other and is immediately going to start being confrontational, that's not good. I don't agree with that. I'm just saying when you're seeing it as often as it being purported as bad, you're going to have a negative... Like, what's the first thing you think of when you think of a car salesman?
I mean, the same as everybody.
You know what I'm saying? Because that's the narrative that's been pushed. Not every car salesman's a piece of shit.
It's been every experience that I've ever had.
I work in a dealership.
I know
good people.
Well, and I'm not saying that they're not good people. I'm just saying that, like, more than anything, that's a problem of working in something where you are paid commission.
Right.
You are forced to harass people.
I'm just using that as an example.
Right.
Like, you start building this assumption of somebody based on this giant narrative that's being pushed.
But, like,
and it's
I don't
not
know if
always the case.
But if that's your example, like, here's the thing. If I jumped in my car tomorrow and I went to 10 dealerships and told a car salesman that I was interested in buying a car, that I would bet you that at least 8 out of 10 of those car salesmen are going to be exactly what I expect.
Okay, do you think if you got pulled over fully sober, whatever, just routine stop, maybe ran a light or whatever, would you assume that you're going to get shot?
I don't know if necessarily people are assuming that they're going to get shot. It's just that, like, things are going to be underhanded.
But okay, you immediately assume you're going to be like dealt an unfair hand.
I think that the likelihood is there enough that I would like to have something to back me up in case it goes to court.
The filming thing's whatever. I don't care about that. I'm more talking about the interaction. Would you conduct yourself with a poised attitude?
I mean, I certainly wouldn't be like...
Or would you immediately be like, I don't need to give you my identification?
What seems to be the problem, officer?
No, but I'm just saying,
sorry if I was speeding.
But would you be like, I don't need to give you my identification? Like, that's my right. You don't need to know who I am. I don't need to give you my name.
I think that I would like to know what my rights are. And if they ask me for anything that's beyond the boundary of that, then yeah, like, I don't really want to be particularly incredibly congenial because they're trying to fuck with me.
But you're assuming
if they like come to my house and they're like, we need to come in and do a search, and
never
I'm like,
no.
Can I see a warrant? And then they're just like trying, and they don't have a warrant. Then I'm gonna be like, yeah, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. No, you never. Yeah, I agree with that. You never allow somebody to search your vehicle under whatever. If they,
I'm just saying for an example, if they ask. And then I have to say, do you have a warrant? And then they say no. Well, then what they were doing is that they're banking on me not knowing my rights so that they can pull some bullshit. Yeah. So then if they do that, then I'm basically immediately like, dude, get the fuck out of here. I don't, like, you tried to mess with me? Like,
no, I agree. And there are definitely, you should know your rights and all that. But it just seems like when this combative nature, and it's just an assumption that things are going to go poorly every time you're interacting with a police officer, isn't necessarily healthy for a policed society.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess, like, I understand. I think that we're kind of, like, I think that we've diminished this issue into something that's kind of very small.
Yeah, no, there's plenty that needs to be done with that, too. I don't even remember what the whole point of that was, where we were going, where that started.
I don't even remember either. Something where I said something about cops or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We'll go back and listen and then be like, oh yeah, that's where I was going to go.
Oh yeah, that's right. I was making a point.
Anyway. Any other issues that we haven't covered that we maybe should touch on? Like you said, we could talk economy, but that would be a very long...
Well, it would be a long thing for me, and I think that, that's, my big political thing, and so I don't think that it's going to be valuable for, you and me to talk about it, and I also think it's going to be really boring for them.
Okay. Well, since we're getting near the end here, here's what I hope for.
Mm-hmm.
This is my hope. No matter who is president, whoever it may be, I am just a guy that lives in a place.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to be able to afford gas, food, whatever. You know, I want to be able to live without needing to pay all this shit in taxes or interest rate. You know, I know there's more than just political that goes into this. You know what I mean? I just want to be able to live affordably, and I want my fellow man to do the same. Evenly. Fairly.
I agree.
I don't want to go to war. I don't want to see other countries going to war. However, we're not other countries. And I get we have vested interests in those. But I would like to
be isolationist as well.
Yes. I would like to see some of the money that we spend on these foreign wars, or whatever we contribute, however it may be, to be allocated to our own country, perhaps the homeless, perhaps the medical, the public education. Can we put some money and resources into our own country to help better ourselves? Because guess what? If we really want to help other countries and better other countries, it's not going to happen if we're fucking falling apart. We got to be able to have our own doctors, our own, teachers and things like that who are getting paid well and getting to help bring up the future, who can help the others around the world. I want healthcare. I want people to be able to get their medicine when they need, and it to be affordable. I want people to have choice over their body, whether that be abortion wise or vaccine wise. I think they're both one and the same. I think they fall in the same choice over body. If we want body anonymity or body autonomy, you can't have one or the other.
Well, nobody's forcing.
Nobody's
forcing anybody to get a vaccine.
I'm just saying I think that's important to mention. You can't have it's the hypocrisy of it all. You have to have, if you want one, you have to be able to balance both, and that's why that's bipartisan, or whatever. We make all this bullshit partisan when it's just human. Like, we should be able to understand that as a human level. Like, yes, you should be able to have bodily autonomy if you live in the free nation. But back to the healthcare shit. I want people to be able to I want the drug epidemic to die out. Like, I don't want to see that as much. I'd like mental health to be a bigger concern, which honestly has, at least the talk of it has been
some progress.
Yes, it's been much more progress. But, these are the things that I want as a adult human in America. I'm sure I missed out on a couple other fucking things. I would like to see less homeless people. I'd like to see that. Just overall, I just want the betterment of man. Who's never said that, And I don't know who's going to give it to us, really, but I can tell you right now, neither of them are, because it's never fucking happened in the history of ever. Red, blue, whatever it is. It's never fucking happened where we got all of it or none of it. You know what I mean? And that's basically, which...
You've got to get the money out of politics first.
100%. And that's what fucking sucks. It's like, here's all these things that I don't think, whatever I just said, I don't think any human being would disagree with, yet we'll never have it. It'll, like, maybe we'll have some of it, maybe we'll have a little of it, but we'll never have all of it. Why?
It's not profitable.
Bang. And like I said, it don't matter who's going to be president. We're going to get some of it. We're going to get none of, who knows? We'll get this, that, or the other, but we're never going to get all of it. So,
good night, everybody.
Cheers to being fucked either way. I mean, that's pretty much the gist of it, though.
Yeah.
I mean, we've sat here and debated back and forth and argued about, whatever this, that, or the other, or talked about possibilities and conspiracies or who knows this, who knows. And ultimately, us as civilians that just are here, it doesn't really matter because it's all gonna just... And in a way, too, at the same time of saying that we're gonna be fucked, we've never really, it's... Nothing changes, really.
Yeah.
And a little bit changes here and there. Like, we notice some things.
It seems like things are always getting a little worse, though.
I
know that, like, the prevailing, like, mentality on it is every generation has thought that they're going to be the last one. Here's the thing. One of them
Will be.
is going to be right.
Yeah,
So,
that's
like,
true.
what's the point in being complacent?
That's true. Well, hopefully it's not this one.
Hopefully.
And,
Okay, real quick, palate cleanser.
yes.
Okay, so we're going to make the best fast food meal.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
All right.
This is a good way to go
And
out.
we're going to do it just with the ones that are kind of around here. So here's the ones that I'm thinking of.
Uh-huh.
Dairy Queen, Wendy's, McDonald's. And I'm kind of thinking just burger places.
Sure.
So that we're not like throwing tacos in there.
Okay.
So, okay, so,
Just,
and here's the idea. What I want to do is I want to pick a product from, or I want to, go through like burger, chicken, fries, and pick one from each of them that we're going to put together into.
but you can't do one from the, you can't do two from the same.
Do you want to do it that way?
Yeah.
I think that would be fair. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I'll pick Dairy Queen for everything.
Yeah, no, you can't do two from the same. It has to
Yeah.
be one from each one.
Okay.
I've already.
So here, let's make this.
I've
let's
thought
make
about
a
this
little
so many
easy-
times.
Let's make this a little easier for us. Let's figure out what the products are going to be, because I could totally see myself being like burger. Oh, dude, Dairy Queen, and then we're going to get to ice cream, and then I'm going to be like, and then we're going to have to go back. So here's what our things are going to be. I want burger, chicken nuggets.
let's say entree.
Well, I want both.
Okay,
though.
okay. Let's
So
just
I
go
want
burger.
I want chicken. I want chicken nuggets / strips. I want fries. I want drink. And I want it to be something besides just soda.
Dessert. How about just dessert?
Well, I want a drink, but I
Oh,
also
okay.
want a dessert.
Okay. So specialty drink.
Yeah.
Of
So
some
a
kind.
drink, a dessert, maybe a sauce.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, add like a specialty sauce,
Yeah.
and then, you said dessert? So we have drink and dessert.
Yeah. The only other thing that I could think of is, and then which restaurant do I want to eat it in? Like ambiance, but like that would be the only other thing.
They're all the same. Let's just say you eat it at home.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, number one.
Let's just say burger, and then we'll both say what we say.
Okay. So for burger,
Ooh. I got it.
all right.
I got it.
Okay, I think I've got it too.
From all just main fast food chains.
Right. Are we going to include like Five Guys?
Ooh. No.
Okay.
I feel like that's fast casual.
Okay. So we're really just doing like
Like the main
Like
franchise.
Dairy Queen, Wendy's, McDonald's.
Burger King, Taco Bell. I mean, we can throw Taco Bell in there.
Yeah, and they got like sauces and
When
stuff.
we're talking sauces and drinks, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Taco John's,
Arby's.
Arby's. Ooh.
Yeah, see, like, I've never had In-N-Out, but I wouldn't include In-N-Out, Five Guys, Shake Shack. I'm not
Yeah,
including
just like the
those.
stuff that's like the one step above.
Right.
Fuddruckers
And that's how I feel. I
and-
think those are the step above.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, cool. We got a few there. Okay, so for burger on all of those, I'm going to give it to Wendy's with the Baconator.
It's really hard for me to disagree with you
Mm-hmm.
because, yeah, 100%. Baconator is king. I'm not choosing Wendy's because of what I'm going to choose for Wendy's.
Okay.
So I'm taking a double Whopper with cheese.
Okay. I hate Whoppers, dude.
If it's done right,
yeah.
I'm talking like I
Maybe
know
I've just never had a good one.
I've had some shitty ones. If it's like the way I want it to be,
Mm-hmm.
I'll take it. Is it the best? No. But we're making like the way we've lined this out, Wendy's would be my number one, but I want something else from Wendy's.
Oh, dude, you're right.
I want something else from Wendy's.
You're right.
Are you
I
gonna
might
check?
have to actually change mine too.
Okay. All right.
I guess, okay, I'm going through all of this, and I think that I'm fair to say, maybe not in the current moment, but I'm going to change it. It's funny because this is probably like one of my least favorites, but the other stuff just has better stuff. I guess I'll put it at a Big Mac
Interesting.
for the burger.
Interesting.
And I actually really don't like McDonald's burgers, but it's because Wendy's
not a
has
double quarter
different
pounder. You
thing.
don't want E. coli,
Yeah, I was going to say, not right now.
but double quarter pounder is the better burger.
I don't know, man. Like, honestly, like the only thing that the Big Mac doesn't have is that it's got those tiny little patties on them. If it had more meat,
I kind of
it
want to
would
try.
be perfect.
Dude, I want to try the McChicken Mac,
yeah,
but sub the Mac sauce for mayo.
I love Mac sauce, dude.
Ugh.
Thousand Island.
Blah.
Mm.
So you're gonna
Okay,
take the sauce
so
off the
anyway.
table then. You're taking mac sauce off the table.
I mean, in the end, I can't like pick everything from everybody.
Yeah.
You know.
So you're sticking with the Big Mac.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I mean, the other thing is like, you know, I love Dairy Queen burgers. They're my favorite, but we have other options for that one. And then same thing with Wendy's.
Dairy Queen burger is basically the same as a
Dude.
Burger King burger.
Oh, I love that.
The taste
I love
wise.
Burger King or Dairy Queen burgers.
All right,
Okay.
all right.
Okay. So anyway, so that's what I have for burger.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm
so,
sticking with the double Whopper with cheese.
all right. Chicken.
Chicken nuggets tenders.
Yeah.
Okay, ready? Go.
Yeah.
Or you want me to go first? Or you want to go first?
Wendy's.
Wendy's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wendy's nuggets by far
They rule. Man.
superior to any other nugget.
Yep. Even like, I mean, I like the chicken strips from Dairy Queen, but still, just nothing stands against those nuggets.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could say something about like Chick-fil-A, but like, honestly,
They don't
like,
really have nuggets.
Yeah, they do.
They're like grilled though.
They have,
Do they?
yeah.
I'm still sticking with Wendy's.
KFC nuggets are really good too.
Ooh, I forgot about KFC.
But you know what? They're still not better than Wendy's nuggets.
You just gave me a great idea.
Okay.
Continue.
Okay.
Where are we at?
So that's where we're at with chicken. So now fries.
McDonald's.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing that's hard. You know what?
McDonald's.
I'm gonna do this. You can sub the fries out for this. Okay. I'm gonna go with Arby's Mott Sticks.
I would just go with Arby's curly
The curly
fries.
fries are also really good.
I would just. I think Mott Sticks is it's too much. You know what? We'll add a subcategory.
Okay.
Mott Sticks, onion rings,
Okay. Yeah.
things like that.
Cheese curds.
So you can still save the
Okay,
Mott
okay.
Sticks if you
Yeah,
want.
yeah. Okay. Well, then I'm gonna say Arby's for the fries. Curly fries.
For the
are
curly
bomb.
fries. Word.
Yeah.
Word. All right. What's next? You want to do the subcategory now, like the,
we'll
the
do
Mott
this-
Sticks and stuff?
We'll do the subcategory, but honestly, I'm still gonna say the Mott Sticks from Arby's. I know we're not supposed to reuse, but
Well, then say the curly fries from Hardee's.
yeah,
You
they're
can do
the same, aren't they?
kinda.
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do the waffle fries from Chick-fil-A
Oh,
for the fries.
Okay.
And then the Mott Sticks from Arby's.
Okay. Well, I'll do the Mott Sticks from Arby's as well because I'm not gonna choose anything else from Arby's. So
Yeah.
and I love Mott Sticks,
Mm-hmm.
so I'll stick with you on that.
Okay, specialty drink.
Got it.
What you got? I'm having a harder time with this one.
Baja Blast from Taco Bell.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I'm going Baja Blast from Taco
I
Bell.
do like me some Baja Blast. Okay, yeah, we'll go with that.
'Cause there's-
I'm sure that there's something from Sonic in this category, but I've only
That could
eaten
also-
at Sonic once.
It could also fall in the dessert category.
One time somebody was like, Sonic is like Dairy Queen but better, and I was like, how dare you?
You're like, get out.
Yeah.
Get out of my car.
I'm never gonna talk to you again. Okay. So that was drink, so now dessert.
Did we forget anything?
I don't think so.
Sauce.
Oh yeah, sauce. Okay.
And I love that you gave me this idea. KFC gravy.
Oh yeah, man.
Oh, hell yeah!
Jeez. All right, yeah, I'll level with you on that one.
Because I was thinking Chick-fil-A sauce, but I don't even really like it.
yeah.
I'm not overrated. Overrated.
It's overrated. Dude,
KFC
everything about Chick-fil-A is overrated.
KFC gravy.
Yep, I'm into it. Let's do it. Okay, and then desserts. Dude,
Blizzard.
there's nothing better, man.
Blizzard.
Yeah.
Specifically,
For me, the Mint Oreo Blizzard.
I mean, I'd probably just go with a Reese's
Yeah,
Blizzard.
you do like the Reese's ones.
I mean, I like the Choco Brownie Extreme, but it's a little bit too much chocolate.
I just feel like it's not something that I would like say like this is my perfect dessert.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
know.
I'm sticking with...
Those specialty ones are really good, but
I mean, Blizzard, name it. I'm eating it.
yeah.
That's it. It's Dairy Queen
Yeah.
dessert all day.
Mm-hmm. That one's probably the easiest one to pick.
Uh-huh. That's why I kept it off the list.
Yeah.
What would be your secondary dessert if you had to choose? Not... Obviously,
Yeah.
Dairy Queen's off the table. And
Right.
And you can go back to...
Yeah. Honestly, dude, it's going to be McFlurries, and the reason why is because it's the closest to a Blizzard. I also really like Jamocha shakes.
I'm going to go Wendy's Frosty.
Yeah, I don't like those very much.
I love them.
They're like
It's a malt.
Well, yeah, they're so it's like frozen milk. Like you got the ice crystals in it. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Like I would choose like milkshakes from like Hardee's or Chick-fil-A.
Oh, actually, you know what? Fuck off. It's the milkshake from Hardee's. Hardee's milkshake hits different.
It's not better than a Blizzard, though.
No. That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
It's my second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's my second.
I was gonna say like probably a milkshake.
I take the
from one of
milkshake
those
over.
if I'm not gonna do like a McFlurry and just to cheat with it still being a Blizzard.
Yeah, I'm taking the milkshake over the Flurry.
Yeah.
Or not the Flurry, the Frosty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's probably the only thing I'd want from Hardee's, to be honest. Hardee's, when it's good, is good. Okay, here's the second question, and we'll go back to, you can have your back choice of whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to include this.
Yeah.
Best chicken sandwich.
I don't have chicken sandwiches very much. Probably.
I'm going Wendy's, bro.
I was gonna say probably the Wendy's home style.
I'm going Wendy's because I had a Chick-fil-A.
Mm-hmm.
Not impressed.
It really didn't do it for me, man.
The quality of the chicken is good. The bread sucks.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it only comes with pickles sucks.
Dude, Amber definitely made it out like the first time that I had Chick-fil-A, it was going to change my life.
That's what Mac did to me.
And I was like, yeah, I remember I took a bite and I was just like, yup, that's chicken and bread, all right. It's pretty much what I expected.
Yeah. I hated it.
Yeah.
Oh no, I didn't hate it. That's a lot.
I was gonna say, whoa.
No. I was immensely underwhelmed.
Disappointed.
Immensely
underwhelmed.
underwhelmed.
I think that part of it too is that I spent many years of my life being told that it was just going to be this amazing thing. I don't think that there was really anything that it was going to do that was going to live up to the hype of what I expected it to be by the time it got here, But still, it just tasted it's like a McChicken or whatever, It's fried chicken on bread.
Yeah. Yep. So, did we miss anything?
Nope, I think that was everything.
I'm trying to think of other, just because we brought it up,
mm-hmm.
what would be other things that would fall in, the mozzarella
the sub-out thing?
Yeah.
So, obviously, there's all the sides that KFC has.
That's where my brain went.
There's the curly fries. There's also crinkle-cut fries and mott sticks at Arby's. Wendy's...
Well, I was thinking the mashed potatoes or the biscuit.
Yeah.
The freaking KFC biscuit.
Well, and that's what I was saying, all the sides.
I think the KFC biscuit falls more in the category of the mott stick
mm-hmm.
than I think the mashed potatoes would fall in the potato
Honestly,
category,
dude,
obviously, of fries.
I would choose DQ toast before I would choose biscuit.
I like the biscuit.
I mean, it's good, don't get me wrong, but man, that toast. Don't you remember when we used to go there every day, coming back from the career center, I'd always ask for a burger, and I'd always ask for a side of toast.
Yeah. The toast was fucking legit.
Yeah. It still is.
Who else has good Oh, fuck. Who's the other one that gives good toast?
I can't think of another one that gives
it might not
toast.
be it might not be a fast food place. It might be a restaurant.
I mean, obviously all the dinner or the breakfast places do good toast.
But this is toast that comes with a savory meal. It's not meant for a breakfast. Why am I blanking? Fuck.
We'll think of it.
Okay. Just because we're on this subject and I want one more out of you.
Yeah. And then we got to stop because I got to whiz.
Yeah. Best, Olive Garden breadsticks.
Oh. Okay, dude, this is an easy one. And honestly, it really comes down to two for me. Because we're talking about the breads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's two.
Okay, wait. Can we just say the obvious one at the same time?
Well, it depends, because you're probably going to say one of these two.
Well...
Okay, I'm going to say...
I'm banking on you. We're here. Here.
Okay.
You're
ready?
with me.
Okay, here we go.
One, two, three. Texas Roadhouse. And that, folks, is why you can agree and disagree at the same fucking time. What was the other one?
Red Lobster.
Oh, the Cheddar Bay.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah. No, but you knew it.
Yeah.
You knew where it was going.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we'll finish this up. But, as you know, let's finish it out with a positive motivational message. We are been a bleak episode at best. with a tumultuous and confusing future ahead of us, and we don't know what's going to happen, but most likely nothing's going to happen. What do you got to say to cheer the people up with a positive motivational message?
Right now, when things are so divisive and political at this time, it's always important to remember that that's just one facet of our life. The things that really matter are the relationships that you make with other people. If you're ever feeling like you're alone, if you're ever feeling like you just can't handle all this stuff that's going on, you have family, you have friends, like, go to those people. They care about you. You care about them. Like, if people have watched this, like, the episodes with me, like, it always devolves into politics with me. I love politics. It's always kind of just been my jam, and you know that. And even then, I can recognize it's exhausting. It's tough. It takes a toll on your mental health, and you just got to take a break, man. It really matters about taking care of yourself and leaning into those relationships, leaning into the things that make you happy. You got to do that. Don't, like, lose yourself in this stuff.
Agreed, and I couldn't have said it better myself. Folks, thank you so much for listening. Good luck out there, and just love one another. Don't be divided, be together. We are still the United States. I understand it can be divided at times, but we are still the United States. So stay united. Thank you so much. But most importantly, don't forget, life's a garden.
Dang it!
Just gotta keep on keeping on.
Why don't you talk in the microphone? I got a back right here. Back of my. Life's a garden, dig it?